This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Welcome in to another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. We've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to go over all the moves that the Patriots made yesterday, today, the trades, this re-signing certain players, maybe some players the Patriots can look to target that are still left on the board for free agency. But this is going to be, I think, a little bit of a tough one. I think you guys are probably going to want to vent just like we are a little bit, and we'll all be here to talk about it. So if you haven't already, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But I'm here with my co-host, Chase Campbell. How's it going, Jace?
Buckle in, because if it just hasn't been crazy enough for you, I think it's only going to get crazier. So this is to me, this is a typical Patriots offseason, right? Last year was a little out of the ordinary, and now you're getting tough cuts, head scratching moves, and stuff that no one saw coming. So it's definitely crazy. And, you know, I think that right now a lot of Patriots fans are worried about the outlook of this team in the future, especially going into next season, which I think that it's fair to say that both me and you are a little nervous too after some of the moves that have been made, but there's still time to fix some of this. We have cap space. We have draft capital. There's a way out of this, although it seems very unlikely.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time left. It's 2 days into free agency, but I can't lie. I'm concerned, and I'm going to try to stay level-headed throughout this whole thing, try to bring a positive side to this a little bit, but there are going to be times where I'm going to be venting a little bit, getting out some frustration, because there's been some head-scratching moves, and we'll start off with the biggest one, most recent one that happened today. The Patriots traded right guard Shaq Mason to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a fifth-round pick. This move cleared up $6.3 million in cap space. So what's your initial thoughts on the Shaq trade? I know we talked about it a little bit. I was sending you some angry text messages after this happened, but what were your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts, it doesn't surprise me. We've seen Bill Belichick do stuff like this before, and Justin Ramos, as incredible as he is, posted something about this, and we kind of hit on it a little, and you thought there was no possibility. And when he first said it, it enticed me because, one, clearing up extra cap space, and two, Justin Ramos originally said, a first-round pick. I would have said second-round pick minimum. This is a top 5 right guard in the league. You know, you can never have enough right guard, or never have enough offensive line depth, especially a guy that's great like this in the run and in the pass. He's been a staple on the offensive line. So I was shocked to see that it was a 5th-round pick. When I first saw the trade come through, I was like, you know, we're probably getting a haul for this. If anything, it's probably a 2nd and a 4th, or maybe a 1st-round pick straight up. And the 5th-round pick thing, I mean, I was literally shaking in my boots. It's crazy to hear that that's the only thing he went for. I would have liked this a little bit more if Ted Karras was still on the team, because now you've only lost one starting right guard. Now you only are sliding in Michael Winu, who didn't even start at all at guard last year, and you don't know who your backup or who your next starting guard is going to be, whether it's on the right or left side. So all of a sudden, you're looking at an offensive line that was probably one of the strengths of this team, and you're looking at it with a lot of question marks.
Yeah, and Gabe here talking about Ryan Izzo. If Ryan Izzo beefs up a little bit, maybe he can play right guard, right tackle for us, because at this point, he's probably our best bet as a tight end. But no,
we might need him as an offensive lineman.
That's what I'm saying. But no, on a serious note, I was shocked. I mean, it honestly just makes zero sense in the world to me. And these are some of the decisions that are such head scratching decisions that make no sense. Shaq Mason is a top 5 guard at the worst in football, like top 5 minimum in football. And you get a 5th round pick for him. He's 29 years old on a reasonable contract for his skill set, for what he brings to the table. And you're going to get a 5th round pick. That's all you're getting back. But we'll trade a 2nd round pick for Mohamed Sanu, but we give away Shaq Mason for a 5th round. Like, that makes no sense to me. And it's just, we only saved $6.3 million cap space. Okay, yeah, we saved some cap space. You know what? We could have traded Isaiah Wynn and saved $10.4 million in cap space. How about that? Almost twice as much cap space for a player who's not half the caliber of Shaq Mason. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I don't see why we couldn't have got a 5th or a 6th round pick for Isaiah Wynn. And I would have rather traded Isaiah Wynn and got a 7th back than traded Shaq Mason and got a 5th. This is ridiculous. I mean, one of our best players, a staple for the Patriots, a guy who's him and David Andrews been next to each other their entire careers, and we just get rid of him for nothing, and we give him to the Bucs. And I don't know. It made no sense to me. I get you want to move money, but there's other ways to move money. There's some really easy ways to move money that we have a video on that. And it's just, I don't know. I'm baffled. I'm honestly at a loss for words because it makes absolutely no sense. No sense at all to me.
Yeah, it's the return is what is absolutely mind-blowing for me. Like I said, I think that I kind of anticipated this and thought that it definitely was more of a possibility than some Patriots fans, because this is just what Bill does. But the 5th round pick absolutely blows my mind. Now, the one thing is no, there's probably not a better guard on the market than Shaq Mason, but the offensive line market, especially the interior offensive line, hasn't really been touched yet. So there's still guys out there. There's rumors that they want to go get Lael Collins from the Cowboys. You know, there's other guys out there that I've been interested. Richie Incognito, he's up there in age, but he might be a 1-year filler, and he brings someone else in. He still has some football. Will Hernandez. There's younger guys out there. But the thing is when you're talking of a team that went to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, and you're saying, let's not waste his rookie contract, you're wasting his rookie contract right now, because I saw someone in the comments say that Mac might be running for his life, and that's true. And Mac's not the most mobile quarterback, so who knows how he succeeds with that. The other thing is New England does kind of have a track record of developing offensive linemen a little bit better than some positions. Now, I am not a fan of banking on, hey, we're going to find a 6th or 7th round pick like Michael Winu that's going to be a stud year one, and he's going to solve all of our issues. So I am definitely concerned about the offensive line, but we have seen Bill Belichick find guys, Shaq Mason, Michael Winu, David Andrews, undrafted, right? We have seen him find guys later in the draft that have produced, but I don't see anyone coming in being close to what Shaq Mason would be year one, and that's kind of the same way I feel with JC Jackson too.
Yeah, and I agree with Light Shadows here. I haven't heard from anybody that saying we didn't get fleeced. It's such a ridiculous trade. I had Bengals fans commenting in my comments saying, "Hey, I'm praying for Mac Jones. We've seen it with Joe Burrow. It stinks. It's the worst. You got to protect the kid. What are you doing?" I mean, we talk about all the time. How do you set up a rookie quarterback for success? Good offensive line, good run game, and then if you can add some weapons in there, and that'll work wonders like it did for Joe Burrow last year. Like weapons wise, but okay, now 3 of our starting 5 offensive linemen are currently not on the roster. One of them is signed elsewhere. One of them we traded, so they're elsewhere. Trent Brown is still a question mark, but it doesn't make any sense to me. This is the crazy stuff that you see Bill do sometimes, but usually he has a backup plan. Where is the backup plan? We talked about it, like at the cornerback position. You can't keep relying on undrafted guys by Bill Belichick turning into Pro Bowlers, All Pro. You got to have a backup plan. That doesn't always work. And you're trying to work in Mac Jones's window right now, his 4 or 5 year window on that rookie deal, on that cheap money. And you're taking away all his protection. You're not getting him a number 1 receiver. So now he has average receivers, a very poor offensive line, good solid running backs, but what are the running backs worth if you don't have a offensive line to block for them and open up holes? It doesn't make any sense to me. They made some good moves overall of bringing back some players, which we'll touch on all the other signings after this, but I figured we should get to this first. It's baffling. It honestly is. It really is. I think they wanted to re-sign Ted Karras and then maybe move on Wenu to right guard. It sounds like they put in an offer for Karras, but then they lowered their offer when they made their second offer. So they didn't try hard enough to get Karras back, which if you're going to overpay, if you think you're going to overpay, don't. I get that. That's fine if you don't want him, but you got to keep one of those guys. And Shaq Mason, if all you're getting is a 5th round pick back, it's not worth it. His value is way higher than that. Like we talked about when you first responded, you said, hopefully we get a 1st round pick. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, we should get a 1st or maybe a 2nd. A 5th, I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. And I'm still my mind is still kind of blown.
Yeah, and you're looking at the offensive line last year, and you're saying we struggled at the tackle position. Isaiah Wynn was inconsistent. Trent Brown was hurt for a good majority of the year. So you're looking at what was the staple of this offense? It was Ted Karras, David Andrews, and Shaq Mason. Now, the only one on the roster, David Andrews right now. And I have faith in Michael Winu. I mean, we've seen great stuff out of him, but now you're losing 2 of your best offensive line that played last year. And we know how we are on offense. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, 2 tight end sets, maybe even throw in a 6th lineman, at least how we were last year. We're a run heavy team. We want to run the ball and we want to rely on the run game instead of the play action pass. I'm getting worried about the run game all of a sudden too. It's not just about Mac. It's how are we going to get this run game going with Damian Harris, who is a great back, and Ramondre Stevenson, and utilize those guys like we did this year. How are we going to see our offense transform itself into what we want? And, we're all calling for a new offensive coordinator, and we got someone, whether, it's who you want or not, or it's a committee or whoever it is. But I don't know how you feel comfortable in this offense progressing with what I think they're going to have a lack of run game compared to last year and a lack of pass protection. Those are 2 biggest things that you got to have if you want. It doesn't matter. We can go out and sign Allen Robinson tomorrow. If Mac Jones doesn't have time to throw the ball down the field, it doesn't matter. So it's definitely frustrating. And this would have sat with me a little better, like I said, if it was a 1st or a 2nd round pick, or if Ted Karras was still on this roster. But when you're losing 2 of your starting guards from last year, it's never good.
And people keep saying, people were tweeting afterwards, the Patriots don't just clear up cap space without having a move in mind they're going to make right after. Like, they're planning something. Something's brewing, blah, blah, blah. Nothing's brewing yet. Nothing's happened yet. I know there's still time. I'm not saying there's not, but the funny thing is Patriots aren't going to sign Allen Robinson. We're not going to get a number 1 receiver. Our offensive line is crap right now, and I'm concerned. I know it sounds doom and gloom right now, but I don't know what to say. Bill Belichick, I've defended him so long, and everybody who's like, Bill the GM, nah, he needs to go, needs to be replaced. I'm not saying he needs to be replaced. I'm not going to go that far, but he has made some very questionable moves. And I tweeted earlier today, Patriots returns on great players in the past season. Stephon Gilmore, 6th round pick. J.C. Jackson, let walk, got nothing back. Shaq Mason, 5th round pick. Those are 3 elite players at their positions, and we got a combined 5th and 6th round pick for the 3 of them. That is outrageous. That's ridiculous. There's no excuse for that. I understand Gilmore was on an injury, he needed a contract, 6th round pick. Okay, J.C. Jackson, you're going to let walk for nothing. Shaq Mason, healthy, top of his game, 29 years old, solid contract, 5th round pick. Some of these moves just have made absolutely no sense to me, and I understand Bill's playing chess, everybody else playing checkers, whatever. I don't see it right now. I don't. It's just all the obvious moves that everybody says this is a good idea. Trade Isaiah Wynn, get $10 million back, boom. Resign Trent or Ted Karras or any of those guys. Keep your offensive line, add a guy here, whatever. None of the obvious moves that everybody as a consensus in the world thinks is a solid move, like the majority of people, he never does those moves, and it just doesn't make any sense. Sean Wade, he could end up being a stud. Like that'd be great, but we don't know that right now. He hardly played last year. We have no backup plan at offensive line. We have no backup plan at corner. We have average wide receivers. We're not going to spend our money on a receiver. Where do we go now? I honestly think that Belichick, part of this situation right now, he could be saying, okay, now our offensive line is crap. Oh, when reporters asked me in the fall, oh, why didn't you never get a wide receiver one? Oh, well, we had holes in the offensive line. We needed to pay money to fill that hole and that corner. But like, you're creating the problems, Belichick. Like this would not be an issue if you didn't make it an issue. I think you could find a tackle at Isaiah Wynn's level or higher for cheaper money a lot easier than you could find a guy at Shaq Mason's level for his money. And the cap space just doesn't make sense to me. The whole situation, it's frustrating.
Yeah, and we're gaining all this money, but like you said, are we really in on Allen Robinson? I'm sure New England has interest in him, but they're not going to pull the trigger on him. I'd shit bricks if they pulled the trigger on him. That's one of the most unlikely things that New England's going to do, in my opinion. So who are the receivers you realistically want? I don't want Jarvis Landry. I think he's out of his prime. I think that I'd rather roll with Kendrick Bourne and Jakobi Meyers in the slot than Jarvis Landry. DJ Chark's off the board, who I thought would be a good big target. Maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but now you're saying, oh, the receiver market is so inflated. Maybe he's going to go for $14 million a year, and now you're looking to move Aguilar's contract. And I mean, I don't know. And now looking at the corners, like you said, like, is it realistic New England brings back Stephon Gilmore? He's the best scheme fit still available. Probably not. Is it realistic that we go bring back Chandler Jones? I mean, I think every Patriots fan would love it, but for me, he's going to demand a lot of money, and it might be close to, something JC Jackson would want. And why not just pay JC Jackson? So I don't know. Do you think that Bobby Wagner's realistic? I don't know. There's a lot of teams that are in on him. Is Bill going to fork up the money to pay him? I don't know. I just look at all these guys and look at the moves Bill's made, and I say, are all these moves that Patriots fans want him to make or that make sense? Are they even realistic? And I don't see many out there that are actually realistic. Bill's probably just going to go out there and continue to sign cheap deals and guys that are on bargains. And maybe the way we improve the most is through the draft. So it sucks.
Yeah, and I want to touch on a couple comments here. Gabe, only makes sense to move on from Wynn now for those cap savings. Otherwise, we're moving backwards. Yeah, Isaiah Wynn, it makes all the sense in the world. He underperformed. He wasn't good. You gave him the tender or whatever, fifth-year option because you thought he was going to be good ahead of the season. He stayed healthy. He was bad. He's not worth $10 million. You can move on from him. Also, somebody has to trade for Win. Yes, they do. I don't care if they give you a 7th-round pick. Get his salary off our books. Get somebody else in here. You can find somebody cheaper for better than Isaiah Wynn. I don't think that's that tough, honestly. And something that's frustrating is we have $115 million projected in cap space next season. Every team in the NFL dips into that, puts money off into there, converts it, salary cap into signing bonus, whatever, gives people money immediately to free up money on the books later and get a good team together now. And I mean, the Saints have been doing that for years. They were negative $70 million in cap space a few weeks ago. Now they have like negative 20, negative 30, and now they're about to trade for Deshaun Watson. So it's like there's ways to do it. You can create cap space so easily, and they just don't want to do it. I don't know if they don't want to give people physical money up front. Like when you give somebody a signing bonus or whatever, it's right then and there. You're handing them money. I don't know what the situation is, but there's so many ways this team can operate that teams are taking advantage of the salary cap in the new era, and they're acting like this is 1965, and the only thing you can do is this way, or nothing. And I think that's dumb to not adapt to the new ways, the new tools you have to manipulate the cap and to give yourself a good team. It's just, I don't know. It's been a frustrating free agency so far. It's not over. Let's see. I don't understand anything at this point. Yeah, I don't know. It feels more like Patriots free agencies of the past, but it also feels different than that because some of these moves are just so head scratching. One thing we don't realize, Bill probably has a plan for months ahead of everybody. I hope you're right. I know Bill has a plan, but I think sometimes we think of him as Albert Einstein, and maybe sometimes he doesn't have a plan together as good as everybody thinks, or maybe he has a plan and it's not perfect. We still don't have an offensive coordinator. That situation is not figured out. So we have no offensive line coach, no offensive coordinator. 3 out of our 5 starters in the offensive line are gone. So we have a bad offensive line, lost our cornerback 1, have horrible depth at corner. We have 1 starting caliber corner on our roster currently. Well, 2 if you, Jonathan Jones, Jalen Mills. We have linebackers a position of need, D tackle. We have a lot of holes on this team. and not a lot of money to do it this year. You can put it off into next year and create some space to be competitive this year, but we're wasting year 2 of Mac Jones. That's what we're doing. And we're not adding a receiver. We need a receiver. That's not happening. I don't know. I don't understand it. And hopefully you can make more sense of it, but I just don't right now. I don't get it.
No, not a lot makes sense. And some of these other moves that were made in previous free agencies, you kind of get them, right? But this team has glaring needs at positions that can help us in our main positions: cornerback, linebacker, receiver. When you have Tom Brady there, everything's fine and dandy. You're talking about a rookie quarterback who has a high ceiling, and you're saying, we're going to stunt his progression and not get him any pass catchers, and all of a sudden we're going to make even more holes on the defensive side of the ball that we saw struggle tremendously towards the last week, month and a half, 2 months of the season. It was horrendous. I mean, I still think JC Jackson played great. The linebackers did not play great. We were old. We didn't have length. We didn't have speed. And we haven't gotten much better there at that position. I do kind of want to move on to this. Trey Flowers guaranteed to come back here cheap. Trey Flowers does some things. He's definitely stronger in the run than Winovich, and that's what I was going to get into right here is Trey Flowers. No, you're good. Mac Wilson trade. And I agree. I like this Mac Wilson trade. I was not against it at all. I thought that this is good. This is a way to get Chase Winovich's contract off. It's about what, $1 million, right?
It was like
$1 million with about 500,000 in dead cap. So you get $1 million off. You get a guy from Alabama who Bill Belichick is really familiar with that system in Mac Wilson. He's been improving the last 2 years. I mean, he struggled a little bit year 1 and 2. He's shown some good things. But last year, he really starts to come into form, and I liked it. I think that the Mac Wilson trade's good. He's 24 years old. He's going to be 25. I mean, his best football might be behind him. I look at this kind of like, or his best football might be in front of him. I kind of look at this like Kyle Van Noy. You trade for this guy who is a little lower. He's not like a huge name trade right here, but he's got all the talent in the world, and he played at SEC school. He has experience playing against some of the top level competition. I think he's going to fit great in New England. He's going to add definitely some more coverage. Only 6'1", 240, so not the biggest linebacker, but I definitely was a fan of this Chase Winovich for Mac Wilson trade.
Yeah, we already know what Chase Winovich provides to the Patriots. He's not a great scheme fit. He's a pass rusher only. He only can be in there on third down, obvious passing downs. He's not great at setting the edge, stopping the run. That's something Belichick loves. There was times when Belichick benched him. There was situations on the sideline. Stuff happened with Winovich. He just wasn't a good fit here. I love the trade. I think it's a solid trade. I think Mac Wilson has a lot of potential. He's a guy that, we heard the Patriots say in the offseason, we need to get younger and faster at linebacker. This is younger and this is faster at linebacker. He's a guy who can cover. He did well against Travis Kelce and the Chiefs, a couple other notable tight ends. He's been solid when he's gotten snaps on the field. His rookie year, he did really well. He just hasn't got a lot of opportunities. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah came in last season and kind of limited Mac Wilson snaps a little bit. So I think he'll get an opportunity here. I think, like you said, Alabama guy, fast, solid in coverage. Now, if we bring back a guy like Jawan Bentley, we'll have kind of a tandem there of a guy who's smaller, speedy, pass coverage linebacker, and a guy who can thump and stop the run and all that stuff. Mac Wilson wasn't bad against the run either. He's not the best. He's not huge, but I think getting a smaller, faster linebacker who's good in coverage is something that'll be useful to the Patriots. And also maybe another thing of, hey, if they play zone coverage more, a faster linebacker like this, a guy who can cover, that's something that you'll need. So I like the Mac Wilson trade. I like Chase Winovich. He hit his ceiling here. He's not going to be used. We got Ronnie Perkins, Josh Uche, who still aren't getting snaps. Next year, they'll be kind of rotating in that role, I think. And I think it was a good use of an asset here, getting a guy who's young and has potential back.
Yeah, I love it. I think that he adds, like we're talking about, and maybe this helps it so New England doesn't have to take a third or a fourth round linebacker. Maybe they still take one in the first or second, depending on where they go. But now you can address another position, whether that's receiver or maybe you have to get another depth offensive lineman at a position in the third, fourth, or fifth round. So I like this. He's on his rookie contract. It's very friendly, and we'll see what he does. This is where Bill Belichick, in my opinion, is his best. He goes and finds guys like this that are cheap, that haven't played their best football. He had comparisons coming out of college to CJ Mosley, and that's high comparison. CJ Mosley has been a dude in the league for the Jets and for the Ravens. And if he can come anywhere close to that, Patriots fans would be, that would be awesome. So I love this trade. This is one of the there's a lot of moves I liked, but this is for me. This is Bill. Like this is what Bill does best.
Yeah.
Maybe not maybe not trading players away for good value, but when you're talking getting Mac Wilson for Chase Winovich, Mac Wilson is going to do more than Chase Winovich does this year, unless he gets hurt, and knock on wood that he does that. But we needed a linebacker. He's going to come in, and like you mentioned, now you can get Ronnie Perkins. You can get some of these other guys that off the edge that haven't played too much football here. You can get them going and say, hey, what are you really about? Because, Ronnie Perkins, for example, he's on IR most of the year last year, doesn't touch the field a lot. Let him develop in the program, let him get another mini camp, OTAs, see how he does going into the season. And, it probably can't be much worse than Chase Winovich. So I like this. You clear Chase Winovich, you get a young backer in Mac Wilson, and you see what he's all about.
Yeah, and just a couple quick final thoughts on the Shaq Mason stuff because we got a couple more comments. This is one of the worst trades that I can remember Belichick having in quite some time. Like he's traded away players for little value, as we've seen multiple times, as I mentioned a little bit ago. But this is one where there's not many other factors that play into this. There's not an injury. He's not super old. He's not on a wicked expensive contract. You got a guy who's 29, solid contract, great talent, top of his game, top of the league at his position, and you get nothing back for him. This trade is one of the most frustrating things that Belichick has done, and it doesn't make any sense. So we'll leave it at that. And then one thing, does anybody think the Pats are going to win 10 or more games this year or make the playoffs? We lose Jackson, Gilmore, Mason, McDaniels. Yeah, we do have a tough schedule this year too. The AFC is getting loaded. I mean, Russell Wilson, the Chargers are stacked. Their defense, their offense looks scary. Doesn't look great. If I had to bet right now over under 9.5 wins, maybe I'd probably say under. Or under 10 wins, I'd say under probably. It doesn't look great right now. Still a lot of time left, a lot of players left in free agency. We could come on here tomorrow and they could have got Allen Robinson, Collins, a couple corner, like whatever. And we'll look at this very different. But as we stand right now, the position the Patriots are in, this upcoming season does not look good. They're not setting Mac up for success. This defense doesn't look like it's set up for success. This team is not set up for success. And just the situation around him, no quarterback coach, no offensive line coach, no offensive coordinator. I mean, what are we doing? This is last year they developed Mac perfectly. And it looks like in year 2, they are turning that right around and are screwing Mac Jones over in his development. This is not what you want to see from a rookie quarterback in his second year, giving him nothing, no consistency, no weapons, no offensive line, no coaches that he can go to. The only thing that I think they're giving Mac Jones is Brian Hoyer. And that's sad, but Brian Hoyer is one good thing that I think the Patriots did do so far this offseason that is going to help Mac Jones out. But we can kind of leave it at that if you want.
Yeah, we got a Bucs fan here asking Shaq Mason for a 5th. Yeah, this is
not good.
We don't feel good about it. If you're a Bucs fan,
you feel great. You're a Bucs fan, yeah,
because you're getting the 8th highest graded offensive lineman on PFF, and it's not only that he's good in the run, but he's great in the pass too. I mean, he anchors well. He's a tank in the middle for the offensive line. And I know that the Bucs had a little bit of departures on the offensive line spot. You guys just replaced. I'm pretty sure that you guys lost Alex Kappa to the Bengals. But I mean, you're replacing him with a top 5 guard in the league, and you did it for a 5th round pick. And the Bucs, I think that they have a little bit more positions, but franchise tagging Chris Godwin, still having Mike Evans. I'm sure Gronk comes back and Brady, and now you add Shaq Mason to that offensive line. Excuse me, that team's going to be right back in Super Bowl contention. A week ago, people were like, "Oh, the Bucs. So should they trade for Watson? What should they give up?" The Bucs are right back in Super Bowl contention after adding, Shaq Mason because he's that good of an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and this comment's kind of funny. Ironic that Bill said during the Brady era that the reason why they can't sign a star player was because of the cap hit from Brady. But when we have Mac Jones on a rookie contract, we still don't spend any money. We spent a lot of money last season. I'll give him that. But I don't know if there's ways you can spend money this offseason. There's things you can do to put pieces around Mac Jones and support him. But instead, you want to trade away pillars of this team for nothing, for a bag of chips. I mean, and N'Keal Harry and Isaiah Wynn are still on our roster. So that's great. That's great planning there, Bill. So I don't agree with that. You want to touch on this comment real quick? You think we can get a vet like Casey Hayward?
Yeah, we've talked about Casey Hayward a little. I wouldn't mind him. He's coming off one of his best years in the league so far, but he doesn't fit our scheme unless we're going to totally switch to his own coverage team. he plays some of his best football in zone coverage. And
Yeah.
at this point, maybe that's the best option we have because, like I said, I don't think that Gilmore makes sense to come back. I would love to have Stephon Gilmore come back. I just don't think with the way it ended and the money we have that he's going to come back. So maybe, an options like this is Casey Hayward. The other one I've heard, Darius Williams, the Rams corner. He's young. He's only 29 years old. And he played pretty much the whole back half of the season for the Rams on their Super Bowl run. And I mean, he's more of a cornerback too. And now you're talking, okay, well, now you're building your roster off of a bunch of cornerback twos like Jalen Mills, Darius Williams. The guy that I really wanted, I know Cole wanted him too, Javarius Ward. He signs with the 49ers, gone. There's just not many scheme fits. There's a lot better corners. There's a lot more corners that are better at zone coverage. And that's what makes the Patriots so good on defense when they have these skill guys that can run their scheme. Is it's hard to play press man consistently with the way the NFL is nowadays, with how it favors the receivers, how it favors the offense. So when you get good press man corners, and it's not very often that you get great ones, there's very few in the league, you got to hold on to them. And so I don't see many scheme fits unless New England really does want to switch. You look in the draft, Kiar Elam's probably one of the best press man corners there. Andrew Booth can do it. Maybe Trent McDuffie is a guy that if we switch to zone coverage, falls into our lap. I don't think Derek Stingley falls to 21, but he's kind of losing steam. So there's guys in the draft process that could come in and fill this role, but in free agency, I'm not really too high on any guy because there's not many scheme fits.
Yeah, I agree. And Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins got released today as well. So I mean, there's some okay options. There's not a lot of great options out there. The kind of the top of the market guys aren't there. I'm sure Belichick will swoop one of these guys for cheap, and hopefully he turns out good. But it's concerning. And while we're talking about cornerbacks, we'll touch on the J.C. Jackson news. We made a video on this. We posted it last night. So if you guys haven't seen that yet, we'll go into more detail in that video, and not on this. But just quick thoughts. J.C. Jackson, 5-year deal worth up to $85 million, $40 million guaranteed, and he's getting that $40 million guaranteed the first 2 seasons. His cap hit is $8 million this year. It goes up to like 19 over the next 3-4 years or whatever it is. So I don't know. Annually, that averages out to $16.5 million a year. For that money, Patriots should have kept him. There's not better options out there for the price. There's not many options left out there in general. And our outside cornerback position is extremely thin. We already needed to add at that position. Now JC's gone. Now it's top of the list need. And I didn't think it could get worse. I didn't think another position could be more of a need than corner, but offensive line quickly might have just switched to that after the past 2 days, losing 2 starting guards and possibly your right tackle. So I don't know. Another move I didn't like by the Patriots here, letting JC Jackson go. Maybe they saw something that we didn't. Maybe they see him every day. They know him better than anybody else, but I feel like it's tough to let a guy like this go and get nothing back in return. Minimum, like we talked about many times beforehand, franchise tag him, trade him. Probably would have got a 7th round pick because that's what Bill would have gave him away for. But we really, I don't know. We should have got a 2nd round pick at minimum for J.C. Jackson, 2nd round pick at minimum for Shaq Mason. I don't know. That could have filled the gap of picks there, and we would have been looking a lot better into the draft, and I would have been feeling a lot better about this team. But instead, all we get is a 5th round pick total, and this is the situation we're in.
Yeah, and looking at the contract, $8 million cap hit year 1, and I know that it's got a lot of guaranteed money. He's getting $28 million in year 1, but that only 8 of that, or $28 million, only 8 of it is against the cap. Like, come on, you're telling me that New England couldn't have done $8 million year 1 and then used 17 or even 19 million of their $110 million that they're projected to have next year, and I'm sure it's going to be less. Like, it's not going to be 110 million by next year, but even if they have 50 million, you're telling me I would have paid JC 18 to 19 to keep him on this roster, and you spread out the money. I think that this is a great deal for the Chargers. They get Russell Wilson in their division, and they have a great quarterback on the rookie deal, and they're going for it. And I don't blame them. They should. I think that that's what New England should be doing. And
I love what they're doing.
I do too. I freaking love it. I think the Chargers are doing it right. They're looking and they're like, hey, we have a legitimate window right here with Justin Herbert on his rookie contract. We're going to go out and get these dudes. You go get Khalil Mack. You still have Derwin James. You have Joey Bosa. Now you have J.C. Jackson. You still have your 1st round pick. They signed a good defensive tackle. So I love what the Chargers are doing. I wish New England would do something like that and be a little bit more aggressive. But the J.C. Jackson one sucks. I've always been a guy, and I know some Patriots fans are down on him, but he's gonna. I just firmly believe he's only 27 years old. He's a year younger than what Stephon Gilmore was when we paid him. And you know what Stephon Gilmore did? He came here and he played some of his best football. J.C. Jackson only had 1 year of true, starting cornerback reps. He's been behind Stephon Gilmore. He might just be hitting his stride. And you're looking back on there, and as the cornerback market for top corners continues to get more and more and more, that's usually how the NFL works. Is now you're getting JC making $19 million. Jair Alexander is probably going to sign $20+ million once his contract's up. You're going to get corners like this that are going to be surpassing this. So when you're looking back on it in 2027, when he's an unrestricted free agent again, and maybe he's playing some of his best football, or he has played some of his best football, not in a Patriots uniform, you're looking at $19 million might have been the steal for him.
Yeah, I feel the same way pretty much. I don't know. I was closer to the 17, 18 million range. You were closer to the 18, 19. I mean, pretty freaking close. We're pretty much the same on that. I didn't want to lose him. The only good thing about him signing for that money is that lowers the market for everybody else. I mean, we saw it didn't lower it that much. Carlton Davis got 15 a year. Travarius Ward got 14, I believe, from the Niners, like you said. Maybe that lowers the cornerback market for the rest of the corners down there. Thing that stinks is wide receivers wise, Christian Kirk and the Jaguars ruined the wide receiver market. That is blown up now. That's exploded. I think if he got what he was supposed to get around 13, 14, I think there's a slight chance we could have got Allen Robinson at this point. I don't think it's realistic at all. I mean, wide receiver is now third, maybe probably third or fourth on our list of needs right now. And we absolutely need to fix the offensive line, absolutely need to address the cornerback position. Wide receiver, we need a wide receiver, but it's not as pressing of a need as those other two positions. And I think Belichick is going to maybe address those. I don't know how you feel about this, but if nothing significant gets done this week, should we be worried? I'm currently worried. I currently don't think there's going to be anything significant done this week by the Patriots. I think they'll make some small moves here and there. I'll be surprised if they sign a big time player. Maybe like a Trey Flowers is the biggest that I can see right now of like, oh, we'll re-sign him, cheap deal, 1 year, get value, and he resets his market like we've seen Van Noy do, or Trent Brown, or just a lot of these guys around the NFL that come back to the Patriots. So I don't know how you feel about that. You think there's any chance we do anything significant?
It looks slim. I don't have confidence in them, but I'm not ready to panic yet. Like, it depends on who leaves. If you're looking at the market next week and pretty much every good player's gone, I still think that there will be some players that are worth signing after next week. Now, New England's pretty much out on all the big main targets. You lose DJ Chark, guys like that I thought were within New England's price range that would have been slam dunk additions. And now you're looking at it and they're not there anymore. So it depends on what the market's like, where people sign. The one thing that the Patriots and Bill Belichick aren't going to do is they're not going to panic and they're not going to overspend, which I think Patriots fans should be grateful for, because we would never give Christian Kirk a contract like he did. I thought that the Aguilar
only the Jaguars would, though. Like that's about it.
But I thought the Aguilar one was a little bit out of reach for New England last year. But they go get him, and Patriots fans have faith and stuff, and it doesn't work out. So that's one thing. The Patriots aren't going to overspend for players. They're not going to be a team that's going to be panicking and say, "Oh, we need to sign guys just because we need to sign guys." They're going to build the way that they think is best for the roster, and that's going to probably raise a lot of questions. But the thing I'm looking forward to now, because like you said, I don't think that there's any significant moves, is the draft. It makes this draft that much more important. You got to hit, especially round 1, round 2, probably round 3. And you got to try to find a diamond in the rough in round 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah, that's why I'm concerned, because you got to hit on all these draft picks. Question here from Master Echo: how would you feel about giving up 21 for a player we absolutely need? I believe it very well can happen. I don't think it's likely. I'm assuming you're saying $21 million for a player. Allen Robinson's probably going to get that in that range. If Christian Kirk is getting 21, I don't see why Allen Robinson shouldn't get that. I don't think either of those players should be getting that money. I would not, if the Patriots gave $21 million a year to Allen Robinson, I'd be excited for a wide receiver 1, but I'd be like, wow, okay, yikes, that's a lot of money right there into one position when we still need offensive line and other stuff. I'm not delusional of we need 3 wide receiver 1s right now and screw the offensive. Like, we need a team. I understand that, but we need a wide receiver 1 pretty badly as well. I'd be willing to give Allen Robinson max 17.5 a year. That's what I'd be comfortable with. He's projected to get 15 a year. Before all this happened, 17 to 18 is the range I'd like us to fall in if we target him there. Outside of that, there's no other player in free agency currently that I would like to give that much money to. I don't think there's anybody who's young and talented at a position of need that's worth that much money from us. And I don't think Belichick would do that either.
I think he means pick 21 right here.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
And then again, I'm still against it. I think the most likely thing that if they're going to get off a 21, they're going to trade back. I don't know New England's who they going to trade for that's on the open market that's worth pick 21. I don't know. I mean, people were saying Calvin Ridley. I thought that Calvin Ridley was still worth a second, and now he's out of the picture. I don't know. I don't see anyone realistic at pick 21. I see they, especially now, you trade back into the late half of the first and can gain an extra third. It helps you solve more positions of need later in the draft. So I don't see them moving for a player at pick 21. And I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that because who knows what Bill does now, but I don't see it happening.
I doubt it.
I don't think it's likely.
I think he wants to accumulate picks. I think we'll trade back from 21 to get more picks. And what sucks about this is, hey, you trade Shaq Mason for a second. There you go. You don't got to trade back. Maybe you can use that first round pick for a player that you want. I don't think there's anybody the Patriots will trade 21 for. That question makes more sense now that you rephrased it for me there. Yeah, I don't think there's any players right now that the Patriots would give up a first round pick like that for. Maybe if there's a corner that's young that is for some reason on the trade block, that's the only thing I can see. But I don't think they'll give it up for a wide receiver. I don't think there's a receiver worth it right now that's on the trade block. I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys out there. Usually, if you're a good young receiver, teams want to keep you. And somebody brought up DK Metcalf. I don't think I wouldn't give up a first for him. He's going to get paid next year, I think next year. I wouldn't do that. I don't know. Good question here from Blake. I don't know what we're doing either. We're all along for the ride at this point. Just got to see what Belichick does. It's been a frustrating day with some of these head scratching moves, but yeah, at 21, I don't really think there's a specific player that I would see the Patriots trading that pick for.
Yeah. I look at this comment. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. My expectations are very low right now on the Patriots. I don't think they're a playoff team right now with the roster they have. And I think that they're probably the third best in their division, but you're drafting top 10. You're telling me that they're going to have 6-7 wins. I don't know. I still think that, and the schedule, it's middle of the pack. They have the 16th hardest schedule on the strength of schedule. So they're literally right in the middle of the pack. I don't see New England drafting top 10 in 2023. I know.
If we had the 15th pick with that awful Cam Newton team,
yes,
we're not drafting top 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 again. Sure. 15 to 20 range. Probably. Yeah. That's where we will end up. The division's harder. I don't know. I don't buy. I know it says we have the 16th hardest schedule. I don't buy that. I think it's tougher than that. And I think it's gotten tougher with some of the moves. This is based off strength of schedule or previous records from last season, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And things have changed in the AFC. Yeah. There's Chargers are better. Broncos are better. The AFC West is better. I don't know. It's scary looking. I'm not going to lie. I don't care. Build, don't tank. Looking at our roster, we don't have any choice but to tank. We're not going to tank. That's not going to happen. Maybe a middle of the pack pick at worst. And we're all overreacting right now a little bit because we're all pissed off. And I don't blame anybody because I'm extremely frustrated as well. I'm trying not to overreact, but at the same time, what are we doing here? And all these comments saying the same thing. I don't get it. We got fleeced. We gave up Shaq Mason for nothing. I like some of the re-signs we made, but we haven't made any moves. We haven't signed anybody from outside. We lost JC Jackson, our arguably best player, maybe our best two players, JC and Shaq Mason, at their respective positions. We need a lot of things on this team right now. The AFC East, the Dolphins are improving. The Bills are improving. Both those teams are going to be tough next year. I mean, even the Jets are improving. I don't think we're going to be worse than the Jets. I'm not saying that, but they made some good signings today or so far this week as well. It's tough. It's honestly tough. We need a miracle to hit on a lot of players in the draft. Yep, that would certainly help. Good question here. We've talked about this a little bit, but what are your thoughts on the Patriots picking up Leighton Vander Esch?
Yeah, and I saw a comment up here by Brian. He says probably not any tier 1 free agents. You're talking tier 2, tier 3. I think that Leighton Vander Esch is a guy that, kind of similar to Mac Wilson, maybe hasn't performed up to his first round pick, and they have a ton of good linebackers in that system, and he has had injury issues. But I think you bring him in. He's still only 26 years old. He's young. He can be a guy that New England can, develop into someone that can play big minutes. He's big. I'm going to have to pull up his exact measurements. And I liked him coming out of Boise State. And, maybe the Cowboys just wasn't the right fit for him. And he could come and play in this defense because we do need young backers that can run. I think that he adds length to this defense that we don't have right now. He is 6'4", 256, almost 34-inch arms. I mean, massive. He ran a 4.65, a little bit slower than probably what Patriots fans want to see. But he's explosive. He almost had a 40-inch vertical. He has good lateral speed, almost a 4.15 20-yard shuttle. I think that he's a guy that you look at and you say, yeah, this is probably not a flashy signing, but this is one that I could see Bill pulling the trigger on because he's maybe is one of the cheaper, better linebackers on the market. And if he comes in and makes an impact and then, like you said, resets his market and when he becomes a free agent, say New England signs him to a 2 or 3 year deal, then I like it. I think I've always liked him. I had a post and I put him on the post for my 2 linebackers along with Bobby Wagner and I think I had one more.
Devondre Campbell.
Yeah, Devondre Campbell. And both, I don't think Wagner's very realistic right now. Maybe, hopefully.
Campbell's gone already.
And Campbell's gone. So this is my next target here. And I like him, like I said, I like him coming out of Boise State. And, they don't re-sign him. I think that, that Dallas's loss could be our game because I do like the idea of Van Der Esch in the Patriots uniform.
I like that idea as well. And I agree with everything you said, especially like resetting his market. That's what a lot of players do, especially with his injury concerns. Like you mentioned, that's something of note. And if he can play well and stay healthy in the Patriots system for even a year or two as a prove-it deal, I think that's something that he'd be interested in, and maybe the Patriots would as well until some of their younger players, younger linebackers develop. Cameron McGrone, Mack, the guy we just got from the Browns. Couple options there. So I think that'd be interesting for the Patriots for sure. Couple overreactions here. Sadly, I do not think the Patriots aren't making the playoffs. The Bears are better. I don't think the Patriots are going to make the playoffs unless they make some significant changes here soon. The Bears are not better than the Patriots. I'm sorry. Like Justin Fields is great. That's exciting. You're losing Allen Robinson. You got Mooney. Running backs good. Defense, you lost Khalil Mack. I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to say about that one. That's that's kind of funny, but it's what people feel right now. People are frustrated. One person says, I hate the Jets, but their roster almost better than ours right now. And that fact that I hate it, I don't know. I don't know about
if
that.
New England was to stay at this exact roster right now, and the Jets with the 2 first-round picks they have, 4 and 10, hit. I mean, they can go offensive line there and then get a receiver, or they can get secondary. Yeah. Then I could see them being better. But no, this is not how the Patriots roster is going to look. Like, this is not the end-all, be-all. There's going to be more changes, whether it's good or bad. I think that they're going to be good. I think that you're going to get small, like Brian said, tier 1, tier 2 pieces that New England can work with. And so I don't think that these teams are going to be better than New England.
I don't either. And this is a good one here. I'd be a little less worried if we were to re-sign Trent Brown and Allen Robinson. I think Trent Brown wants a long-ish term deal, probably 3 years is what he's looking for. He wants to stay one place for most of the remainder of his career. So if we offer him a deal there, I'd be fine with that. Then all we'd have to fill is the left guard or right guard, depending on where you want Michael Wenu to play. And then Allen Robinson, number 1 receiver, that would ease my pain right now quite a bit if we got those 2 guys. I mean, if we get Allen Robinson, I'm going to freak out. I already thought we got him because I got trolled from a fake Adam Schefter account, and I freaked out for about 10 seconds, and then I realized it was fake, and I was like, oh, all right. So that was a lot of pain. But if we get Allen Robinson, that would be incredible. Re-signing Trent Brown, I think, is a solid move. Or if we get the guy from the Cowboys that we were rumored to get, I'm pretty sure his contract is about $10 million for the next 3 seasons, I believe. And he's a really talented tackle. I think he's 29. I don't know if you're pulling up the stuff right now, but
he's talking Lael Collins, right?
Yeah.
He was cut this year. He had a $15 million cap hit, and $13 million of it was dead cap.
He was cut? I thought he's still on the Cowboys. No,
didn't they cut him? Or no, they just want to trade.
They're looking for a trade partner. If they don't trade him, they're going to cut him. Yeah.
You're right.
That's great. There's a lot of NFL news. Cowboys in general, that Zeke contract is holding them back from a lot, especially, and they got Tony Pollard right behind him. I don't understand that. But do you want to touch on, we'll finish with the Patriots stuff. Do you want to touch on the kind of Deshaun Watson going on right now, or no? There's Baker Mayfield just came out with a tweet thing thanking the Browns, saying a bunch of stuff about, I don't know if he'll be back. I mean, the Browns and the Saints and one other team were reported to get Deshaun Watson. There's been so much quarterback movement this offseason. It's wild.
Yeah, and Deshaun Watson's probably going to get moved now. And I think it would be smart if Houston trades him out of the NFC or out of the AFC into the NFC. There's so many stacked quarterbacks in the AFC. Get him into the NFC. I thought Tampa Bay was realistic till Brady comes back. Sounds like the Saints are the front runner. The Eagles could make a run at him with their 3 first-round picks this year. Carolina could possibly do something with their first-round pick and throw in a couple more. So I think he's going to move. I don't want to see him stay in the AFC, though. That's just adds it, especially if he goes to if you put him on the Browns with Amari Cooper, I think that's a lot better team. They're probably the clear favorites to win that AFC North, even with the Bengals there. I mean, that
Bengals, Ravens, Browns, AFC North, AFC West.
It's a good.
The AFC would be stacked. So send him to the Saints, send him to the Panthers, send him somewhere to the NFC. But yeah, it's been crazy. Collins, right tackle. Yeah. So he would be our right tackle. Michael Wenu at right guard, David Andrews at center, new left guard, and Isaiah Wynn at left tackle. Unfortunately, that would that'd be there. What position do you think we'll draft first?
Yeah, I think we're both kind of on this page. If the roster is right now, it's probably going to be cornerback. And I still think that that's the most likely one, too. You got to get depth, or you got to get youth and depth at that position. And I think that it's corner.
I agree. Yeah, cornerback. There's some good options there. We've touched on a couple times. Andrew Booth Jr., Kyer Elam, a couple guys we both like. Why didn't we extend players instead of releasing or trading them? We could have created a ton of cap space that way. Yeah. I mean, even Shaq Mason, if we extended him, I think that freed up $4 million. Mm-hmm. Extend Shaq, trade Isaiah Wynn. That's $14 million in cap space added to your roster right there. And you get better. You keep a pillar of this offensive line for longer. You get rid of a guy who stinks. Simple as that. I don't know. There's a lot of good questions on here that we don't have the answers to because we're just as confused as you guys in some of these situations. But
yeah, you want to talk about overreaction? I'm going to pull up a comment right here. That's an overreaction.
This guy's got to be a Bears fan. Hang on.
That's an overreaction.
Okay. He's a Bears fan. Worst memory of being a Bears fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a Bears fan. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's an overreaction though. And
I love Justin Fields. Come on.
That's an overreaction. Come on.
Can he be better? He has a higher ceiling. He has
1,000%.
He can be. Not right now. He's not. He's just not.
And I don't think he gets better than Mac Jones. I think that he can be a good quarterback, but probably not on the Bears because the Bears, we know how they are with quarterbacks. So sorry, you have to be a Bears fan. That's rough. Another comment I wanted to touch on, kind of staying on the draft one. Talking about linebackers, we think that's a position they should target. Second round linebackers, we have a video on this, whether it's the Senior Bowl or people in the combine. And, there's a lot that me and Cole both like. For me, my favorite ones to target in the second round, off of the combine and off the Senior Bowl, I think that Troy Anderson is a slam dunk pick if he's there out of Montana State. The other ones I think fall, though, I think Leo Chenal is a good one out of Wisconsin. Chad Muma, someone that we thought that can cover and play the run game. Brandon Smith, Darian Beavers. I think those last two I said are more third round guys. I wouldn't mind Christian Harris, but his measurements at the combine were so small. He's pretty much just a Kyle Duggar. And I know people are going to be like, oh, he's an Alabama guy. He's so good. He's Kyle Duggar. I promise you. Christian Harris is Kyle Duggar. Go look at his combine stats and measurements. He's Kyle Duggar. And Bill doesn't draft those smaller linebackers like that. So you got to look at linebackers that are within New England's scheme fit. And that's going to be a young, fast linebacker that's physical. And I think that when you're talking about Muma, Chenal, or Troy Anderson, those are the three most likely second-round guys that New England could target at the linebacker position.
Yeah, I agree. And it's the same thing. People who want Nakobe Dean, it's like, dude, he's smaller than Kyle Duggar. It just doesn't make sense for the Patriots, especially trading for a smaller linebacker who's good in coverage like we just did. I think one of those bigger linebackers like Muma, Chenal, Troy Anderson, one of those guys maybe. I think that's a good combination of size and speed that would fit the Patriots well. Another kind of question/statement here. I think we can all agree wide receiver, corner, linebacker should be our first 3 picks in no particular order. What other positions you think we should draft 4th, 5th, 6th round? So I think offensive line, if we don't address it in free agency, moves up the list quite quickly on what we need to draft. I think if they don't address the offensive line in a serious way the rest of free agency, I think offensive line, whether it's guard or tackle, is going to be on their board more than wide receiver. I think they'll throw wide receiver off the board or say, hey, we'll take a swing in the 7th round again like we did with Trey Nixon. But I'd love to get a wide receiver. We need a corner. We need at least one linebacker. and we also desperately need an offensive line right now. I don't know. There's taking your first round pick on a guard would be tough. I think in the 4th, 5th, 6th, that's when they got Mike Onwenu in the 6th round. I think they'll pick up a guard and a tackle probably in those later rounds. That's what I think they'll use those picks on. But early on, probably corner and linebacker. I maybe a wide receiver. I doubt it if the offensive line looks like this. But later in the draft, I think is where they'll try to find offensive line, corner, maybe even as well. Address it maybe early on and late in the draft because they need that position bad.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this question. Do you realistically see any other players on the Patriots being traded for picks? I mean, I think that, yeah, Nikhil, right? I would have said Isaiah Wynn, but now you're looking at it and you're like, gosh, I mean, do you really want to trade him now with the risk of Trent Brown not coming back and
get him out of
now,
here?
If Trent Brown doesn't come back, now you're talking about one returning starting offensive lineman if you trade Isaiah Wynn.
Honestly, flip him. Get Wynn out of here, re-sign Trent Brown. I'm okay. And then you still need to address the offensive line, obviously, but I'd rather have Trent Brown on a 3-year contract than Isaiah Wynn on a 1-year, way overpaid deal. I know it's scary with Trent Brown's injury history, but Isaiah Wynn, I don't think they'll trade him. I think Nikhil he's been talked about getting traded forever. I don't know if they'll trade him either because he's a dominant run blocker. That's what you want is in your receivers, apparently. But I don't see a lot of other players that make a ton of sense. We did a video on it. We talked about it a little bit, but there's not a whole lot out there. Shaq Mason was one we talked about. That happened. But yeah, Isaiah Wynn and N'Keal Harry. Chase Winovich we talked about too. But those are kind of the last two that make sense in my mind. I don't really think there's any others off the top of my head, but Godchaw was one, I think, as well. If you trade him, that saves $7.5 million. Maybe that's something they do.
I question the value of these guys now. We originally said that Isaiah Wynn was probably worth a 5th, maybe a 4th. And now you just traded Shaq Mason for a 5th. Who the hell's going to give you a 5th or a 6th for Isaiah Wynn with his contract?
You look around the league and other teams are getting way more value for their players. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't know. And I think that we would both probably take a 7th just to get his salary off the books and use that money towards Trent Brown. But his value is not very good right now. So that's crazy. Let's continue to move on. We'll keep doing comments, but let's get on to some of the more recent news. Patriots, they have a couple re-signings that I personally liked. This one I thought was great. Patriots re-signed running back James White, 2 years, $5 million contract extension. I think this is great, right? He was playing very good football the first couple of weeks before he got hurt, and this just adds another safety valve that Mac Jones probably is going to need with the way the offensive line is shaping out to be, and this is one of the best third down running backs in the league.
James White's going to have 300 catches this year if this is our offensive line because Mac Jones is just straight to James White as soon as he snaps it. No, but I loved this signing. I got a lot of Patriots fans that were in the comments of the post like, can we do something? Like, really, James White, this is the big signing we're all getting excited about. It's a great signing. It's a 2-year deal, $2.5 million per year, basically. Good value for one of the best pass-catching third-down backs in the NFL who's been in the system forever. He knows the ins and outs of the system. He's a great third-down pass blocker, receiving back. He was on pace last season before he got hurt for over 100 catches and over 800 yards. That would have been our leading receiver, or at worst, our second receiver in receiving yards. James White's a big part of this offense, whether you guys like it or not. He's an offensive weapon for this team. He's going to be a safety valve for Mac Jones. He's going to be a huge part of this offense, and I'm so stoked to have him back. If he's at 100% like he's expected to be, he's expected to make a full recovery and be good to go week 1. If that's true and he's his normal self, I love having him back here for 2 more years. And the good news about this, the thing that makes me feel good about it, if they had questions about his rehab and about his hip injury, probably would have been a 1-year deal, right? You know what I mean? They signed him to a 2-year deal. They feel confident about it. In my opinion, I don't know that. There's no sources or anything, but in my opinion, they feel good about his rehab and his health. And I think that's why they gave him 2 years. And I really, really like the signing. It's a good offensive weapon.
Yeah, great offensive weapon. And it's good to see that he'll be with the Patriots. If you don't love or like James White, you're tripping. Yeah, he's a Patriot. I mean, that's how it should be. He should be here with Mac Jones and be a safety blanket. Next one here. I thought this might have been a little bit too much, but I like the bringing back Devin McCourty. 1 year, $9 million contract. He's the leader of the secondary. And now you lose J.C. Jackson. It's more important than ever to have a guy like Devin McCourty back there in the secondary who's playing with young guys. I think Adrian Phillips can develop into a leader, but he's still young in the Patriots system. Kyle Duggar's young. Jalen Mills is only going to be in his second year. Jonathan Jones, depending on what your other cornerback is. But I love this deal. This became more evident that New England needed to keep Devin McCourty in the Patriots uniform, not only for his leadership skills, but I still think he's playing good football in the post.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could say it's a little expensive. I think it's fine. I have no problem with it. Like you just mentioned, with J.C. Jackson gone, with the cornerback depth that we have gone, we have our cornerback position is scary. Our secondary is scary right now in a bad way. We need Devin McCourty more than ever, and this is going to be a big year for him. If this is his last year, we need a succession plan. My concern is just like with corner, just like with offensive line right now, we don't have a succession plan for Devin McCourty yet. Who's going to be that guy? We've talked about options. Maybe Jalen Mills, maybe Duggar goes back to his college days and go plays free safety, but he's good in the box. That's where he's been elite so far in the NFL. So I don't know. I love having McCourty back. I don't mind the price at all. I think we're going to need him a lot this year. I think he's still a top 10 safety in the league. And I think the value he brings to this team, the knowledge he has, is he has more knowledge of this system than I think any safety probably has of any system currently in the NFL. The continuity he's had being here so long, so many different players, and I think he's a great piece to this defense, and I don't mind the price.
Yeah, let's hit on this comment. Mike asked, are they switching to a zone defense to cast a wider net and landing any cornerback help? We kind of hit on this. I think that when you look at the cornerbacks on the market, if New England wants to sign one of the top corners, unless it's Stephon Gilmore, they're zone heavy corners and they play zone better than they play man. So unless New England really wants to switch it, and I don't think that they fully switch, maybe they start running more zone, then maybe they do start targeting Casey Hayward, some of these guys that are better in zone coverage, and they switch what they're known for. I personally don't like that. I think the Patriots play some of their best football when they can lock up half the field with a cornerback and then do a bunch of other things opposite of, having a true number one lockdown corner. So I don't know. I think that it's becoming more and more likely that we start to see that, because if New England wants to start filling these holes, you're going to have to start looking at either a guy that you think can convert into a press man corner or someone that can play zone, and you're going to switch the whole scheme for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a possibility. Will they do it? Maybe. I don't think it's likely. It seems like they want to stay in man, but at this point, you don't got a whole lot of options. Maybe they'll get a couple guys. I think they'll probably sign 2 lower tier man corners and try to go from there. Hope one of them hits. Couple things here, kind of off topic, but Matt Judon recruiting has been pissing me off. I don't get that at all. I love it. I think it's awesome. Get a guy out there who's recruiting, trying to contact these players. I can't hurt. I mean, what's it going to do? What's the worst that happens? They say, oh no, I don't want to play with a great player like Matthew Judon, who's funny and everybody loves and is a great guy. Like, oh, I'd hate that. Like, who cares? I love it. Kendrick Bourne hopped on. Same with Devin McCourty. Speaking of him, to try to get Chandler Jones back here. That happened like an hour ago. I love that. Question here: what do you think they're creating cap for?
I don't know. Right? There's so many positions of need, and Allen Robinson shouldn't even pick up the phone unless he's getting 23, 24 million a year, and New England's not going to pay for that. I mean, were they creating cap for Travaris Ward? I would have liked them to use it on it. Are they creating cap for Chandler Jones, Bobby Wagner, Trey Flowers? Like, I don't know. There's guys out there, but they're probably not going to require all the cap space, and all the guys that I would have liked to have signed to big contracts that probably would have came in and been super good immediate impact players are off the board. Devondre Campbell. I would have liked a DJ Chark coming in. Allen Robinson's probably off the board too. Javarius Ward, like I mentioned, using it on JC Jackson. All those guys that I kind of had my eye on that would have been the big signing, not realistic anymore, or you can't do it because they're already off the board.
Yeah, it's a good question, honestly. So many positions to need. I don't really know either. They're not getting Allen Robinson. It's not happening. Cornerback wise, like you said, the top ones are off the board. Offensive line is in need. They need a lot. They need a lot right now, and they don't have a ton of money to do it. If they don't dip into next year's salary, they have a ton of cap space. They should. They have plenty of room to do it. If they don't, I don't know how many significant players we're going to get. As much as I love Chandler Jones, I think he's somewhat redundant to Matthew Judon of great at pinning your ears back and rushing the passer, not as great of a contrast piece as I think Trey Flowers would be, a guy who can set the edge and play in that type of role. I think Trey Flowers would be a lot cheaper too. I think Chandler Jones is not going to take a team-friendly cheap deal with the Patriots. He's good. People know it. He's probably going to get paid a solid amount somewhere. I'd love it. I think a guy like Trey Flowers with the value and what he provides as contrast to Matt Judon would be a good fit here as well.
Yeah, and they're projecting PFF is Chandler Jones's contract is $16.75 million a year. If New England goes and signs him for that, I'd just go sign JC for that too. I don't know. If that's what he's really asking, then that's frustrating. But let's continue to move on. Jakobi Meyers here. New England placed a second-round tender on wide receiver Jakobi Meyers. It's going to be about almost $4 million in cap for the Patriots. But I do like this. I don't want to see Jakobi Meyers gone, but this is where you're talking like if he were to leave, at least New England's getting something out of him. They're going to get a second-round pick.
Yeah, I don't think somebody's going to give up a second-round pick for Jakobi. I'm honestly more surprised that we didn't come to a longer term extension with him. I was thinking like 3 years at this kind of price of like $3-4 million a year. Maybe he didn't want to take that. Maybe that wasn't maybe he felt his best football is ahead of him and he's going to continue to grow. And maybe he is. The only thing about Jakobi, as much I love Jakobi, I really do. I think his ceiling is limited with his skill set that he has. I think he can continue to improve his route running and his run after the catch ability maybe a little bit, but he's more of a get open, catch it. I'm pretty much down where I'm catching the football is kind of where he is. He made some big plays for us. He was one of our best separators, one of our most consistent players, safety valve for Mac on third down. You're going to Jakobi or Hunter Henry. That was it last year pretty much. So I love Jakobi. I love that we're keeping him around. If somebody wants to steal him, they're going to have to give up a second round pick, and I don't think anybody's going to do that. So it looks like we'll have Jakobi back for at least one more year. $4 million, not a bad price for a guy who's a great receiver for you and has been pretty consistent and can be a wide receiver too in this system.
Yeah, I'm checking my phone right now because I see something in the comments.
Deshaun Watson reportedly leaning towards the Saints.
Yeah, and then also this is
Marcus May
to the Saints. So getting a little action here late night. Good, get him out of the AFC. Marcus May was obviously a Jets guy and get him out of the AFC.
Ours if McCourty left, but he stayed.
Yep, and I think we'd all rather have McCourty.
Pretty big deal, almost. $9 million a year. He was projected to get $6 million a year, and he's getting about $9 million. So that's a pretty good deal for a guy. He's got good potential, though. We touched on him in a video. That's not bad for the Saints. But hey, look, they can give out a $30 million deal and get Deshaun Watson, but they're negative $30 million cap. So the Patriots, how can we not do anything when they can do that with no money? They have negative money, and we can't do anything.
It's like everyone doesn't play by the rules. Like New England sticks so. Yeah, the Patriots are like
by the book. Everybody
else. This is like what you're supposed to do. Just follow the line, right? You're never supposed to veer from the line. Everyone else is like, we're going to find this loophole. Bill's like, no, we have to respect the game and we have to do it this way. Like this is what my dad did in 1985 or whatever. Blah blah blah. So it's frustrating. But hopefully, we'll have some cap space next year. Hopefully, we still make some signings. But let's continue to move on. Another veteran that New England's bringing back, like this one too, special teams ace, 10-time Pro Bowler Matthew Slater. Very good contract, just 1 year, $2.5 million pretty much. Like you mentioned, another locker room guy, another leadership dude that has been a backbone for the Patriots, both on the field and off the field for a while. So it's good to keep him there and keep some of the leadership and integrity of the Patriot way in the locker room.
Yeah, I love it. Even if Slater didn't even play a snap on the field, $2 million for him. Just to be in the locker room, I don't care, dude. Slater is such a big part of this team, the camaraderie, the chemistry, everything. He's the leader in that locker room. Every post-game video you see, he's leading the team in the locker room, speeches, whatever. He's a pillar of what the Patriots represent. Slater is the Patriots. That's what he is, and keeping him around is great. I love it. I heard somebody say, "Oh, $2.62 million for a guy who just plays special teams." Like, oh, that's an overpay. Oh my God, we could have used that $2 million elsewhere. Where would you rather use $2 million? What do you want to use $2 million? You think if we didn't re-sign Slater, we're going to get Allen Robinson now? Like, oh my God. Like, no, that's not. Bringing back this guy is huge. We got D-Mac, Slater, James White, 3 huge leaders on this team back for another year. I love it. Just brings these new guys are just getting another year of these veterans and learning the Patriot way and forming to this system and structure. And the more they learn this, next year when McCourty, Slater are both probably gone, now we should have more guys learning the Patriot way, more involved and seeing it for more years. So especially Mac Jones as a rookie, having these leaders, they're going to show him the right way to do things. And I think it's great to re-sign a guy like Slater.
Yeah, love it. I couldn't think of many other ways that's better to spend $2 million. You need to keep, let people behind him continue to grow, let him get leadership. This is a Patriot signing, and it doesn't affect much for the Patriots. Last one, maybe the biggest one, right? Keeping the best player we had last year. Re-signing kicker Nick Folk, 2-year, $5 million contracts, $2.9 million guaranteed. He was good. He was a little shaky when he first came to New England, but the last couple of years he's been Mr. Consistent, and it's always good to have a field goal kicker that you trust to hit field goals and PATs, and he's been doing it with the best of them the last year and a half. So I love this contract. You look at the Bengals, right? Like the Bengals pretty much made a Super Bowl run off of game-winning field goals, and yeah, Joe Burrow and the defense and Jamar Chase played great, but without the field goal kicker, who knows when they got bounced in the playoffs.
Yeah, McPherson's a stud. That kid was good. So getting the kicker back, it's good to not have to worry about this situation for another 2 years. Quinn Nordine gets more time to develop. Who knows what he'll turn into? Maybe nothing, maybe something. Kid's got a leg. Accuracy needs to be worked on. And now he's got 2 more years to do it. Or worst case, say Nick Folk does good this year and say Quinn Nordine's a stud on the practice squad. Okay, then Nick Folk, you're gone next year. Quinn Nordine, you're our guy. And that's not a big deal. So one that I did not make a graphic for that I think we should touch on. Brian Hoyer back for, was it one or 2 years? 2 years, right?
Yeah, I thought it was 2.
So Brian Hoyer back. I think that's huge. I think it's huge, especially like we mentioned, no offensive coordinator as of right now, no offensive line coach, no quarterbacks coach. Brian Hoyer is going to be a huge part of keeping Mac Jones in check. When Mac Jones has a question, he can go right to Brian Hoyer and he'll have an answer. That's what's great about this. Last year, he could lean on Brian and Josh. Now Brian Hoyer is going to have a huge part on this team of just helping Mac. He might not even take reps. He might just be helping Mac Jones out and take 2 or 3 reps here or there. Instead, it might be doing the practice squad, helping the defense out during the week. So not practice squad, but you know what I mean? Helping the defense out during the week and running that stuff. So I love it. I think this is a huge signing. Bringing back Hoyer for, was it 2 years for sure? Did you check?
Yeah, it was 2 years.
Okay. Bringing it back for 2
number, but it's cheap.
2 more years. Mac's going to have a guy he can lean on the next 2 seasons until he knows the system like the back of his hand. And I really love this signing as well.
You're effectively bringing in a quarterback coach with him.
Pretty much.
An in-house quarterback coach that is very, very familiar with the system. Maybe one of the most familiar guys with the system. He's played behind Brady. He's, been able to train with Brady, prepare with Brady. Now he gets to help Mac. So I love the contract too. I love that he's still in-house. It's not the big flashy signings, but I thought it was a necessary one. So let's get to some comments right here. With no superstars, who are we paying that got us struggling in cap space? If you go look at the cap space, our highest paid player is Judon. His cap number $16.5 million. Hunter Henry's 15. Aguilar's almost 15. Jonnu Smith is about 13.5. Isaiah Wynn's 10. Yeah. Godshaw's 10. Jonathan Jones is 7. McCourty. I don't know if this is updated. It says his is 6, but his is going to be about 9 this year. This is probably Kendrick Bournes is about 6. David Andrews is 6. Dietrich Wise is 6. Jalen Mills is 6. So just a bunch of guys that are maybe a little overpaid. I did think the Jalen Mills contract was a little high coming off of his last year with the Eagles and maybe the Aguilar one. So maybe last year you overpay a little and that kind of puts you in the situation you are now. But I don't think that anyone's arguing that New England shouldn't have spent the money last year when they had it.
I think last year when we looked at it, it was an overpay for Jalen Mills because we were like, what is he going to do here? Like, we have safeties. We kind of need a corner. He's not the best outside corner. He's better at safety. But I think he was good. And a lot of people crap on Jalen Mills. I think he was way better than I expected him to be. He's a solid corner, low corner 2, maybe, like in that range. Maybe if he was our cornerback 3, I'd feel great. I think Jalen Mills is a solid corner. He's not a number 1. He's not a great number 2, but he's a okay number 2, and he'd be a really solid number 3, a good number 3, I'd say. So it stinks. Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith, both taking up a lot of money, $15 and $14 million on the cap. Both those guys did absolutely nothing for us last year. It's tough. If you could trade Aguilar and Isaiah Wynn, you free up $20 million in cap space. That's a lot. That would get you somebody solid at the wide receiver position, or maybe you use some of next year's money and get Allen Robinson, re-sign Trent Brown. That would be amazing. Something like that. But I don't know. There's not a lot of options. The wide receiver market is crazy right now. You mentioned Valdez-Scantling. He's apparently wants $12 million a year. That's a lot. There's not a lot of options left out there. I think Detroit signed DJ Chark, right?
Yes.
So there's not a lot of guys left on the board. It's Allen Robinson, and outside of that, let's actually take a peek at
Odell Beckham Jr. is still on the board. Everyone expects him to re-sign. Antonio Brown's still on the board. People say Juju. I'm not a Juju fan. Jarvis Landry, DJ Chark's gone. Will Fuller, Jamison Crowder, Valdez-Scantling, Russell Gage is gone. Emmanuel Sanders, he re-signed, right? I think he stayed in Buffalo.
Maybe I don't know. I haven't seen
Cedric Wilson to Miami, T.Y. Hilton, Sammy Watkins, A.J. Green. I mean, like, which one of those guys entices you? Are any of those guys going to come in and make your receiver core that much better? Allen Robinson, yeah, but
one guy that's enticing is Valdez-Scantling. Not for that price, though. Not for that price. If you can get him in here, and get out Aguilar, he can replace that role maybe for a little cheaper. If you can get him on that deal, though, I don't want to be paying. If it's a even swap, Aguilar and Scantling, I don't know. That seems like not much of a change to me. But if you can save some money and bring in Valdez-Scantling, maybe that's good. And then you can maybe add a cheap corner or guard or something. But I don't know. Chark's gone. Kirk is that's ridiculous. Jarvis Landry I don't love. Same. I agree. Juju. Other than that, Odell I would love, and Allen Robinson I'd love. But Odell, I think he's probably staying with the Rams. I think even the longer he stays out there, it might just mean he's definitely going to the Rams because he might be rehabbing with them. And they're like, yeah, we'll get it done. We don't need to worry about it. And maybe they have an agreement. I don't know. But Odell and Allen Robinson and then Scantling is one option. But I think he's going to price himself out just because of the crazy money that these wide receivers are getting. I mean, Christian Kirk broke the market. The Jaguars, I don't know what they're doing, but they ruined it for everybody else who wants a wide receiver. Because if Kirk is getting 21 a year, Allen Robinson, like you said, should get 24 at a minimum. So Olave looking real nice at 21. Yes, he is. Unfortunately, we have bigger needs right now, and we're not going to take him. But I would absolutely love Olave if we can fill these needs in free agency and get Olave at 21. I'd be a very happy guy.
Yeah. Brian asked, what position?
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. What position should we hit on in free agency at least, and what position should we focus on in the draft? Well, I think that now you're looking. Maybe you go sign a veteran, not so much a veteran, but an experienced offensive guard that can come in and play right away. I don't know if I trust a rookie or anyone on our roster. So maybe you're addressing the offensive line in free agency. That's not a very good class. Maybe you go address the cornerback position in free agency. I still think the best position left is linebacker. I was just looking at the linebacker prospects or people that are
Miles
still there.
Jack.
Yeah, I was saying Bobby Wagner, Miles Jack would entice me. Van Der Esch we talked about. I don't know if Patriots fans would really want to bring back Hightower, but he's a guy that's still out there. Anthony Barr played some good football. Juwan Bentley hasn't been re-signed yet.
I'd rather bring back Bentley than Hightower for sure.
Jayon Brown. I think that the linebackers, one of the ones I'd like to see them address in free agency. At least go get one of these guys. And then as we've seen with the Combine and the Senior Bowl and all this stuff, is there's some dang good linebackers that you can get in the second, third, or fourth and find those depth pieces and develop them. So I like the linebacker depth position in the draft more than I like the cornerback. That's why I feel like cornerback is maybe something that's going to be a little hard to address unless you go first round and you get a guy that falls right into your lap that you just absolutely love, or you can go sign Stephon Gilmore or someone at the cornerback position in free agency, and it's just not likely. So if I had to answer this question, I'd say free agency would be offensive guard and linebacker, and then in the draft, and I still don't know where New England takes a receiver, but I'd say receiver and corner in the draft.
The tough thing here is, like you just mentioned, linebacker, there's some great options still in free agency. There's some really great options in the draft as well. So I wish there was a ton of free agent corners and no linebackers and then great linebackers in the draft, because then we could touch on both. But it's kind of like, okay, if we get a corner in the first round, there's a couple good ones there. Outside of that, there's some guys that you can throw a dart at, like Woolen and maybe the end of the second or early third round, something like that. But I don't know. I love the draft prospects at linebacker. I think there's a ton of ones that would be great Patriots fits. I think there's also some great Patriots fits in free agency in the linebacker spot, like we just mentioned. So that's kind of what's tough. I think free agency, you got to get a corner at some point. You got to get some type of offensive guard or tackle. You got to get somebody because you can't fill 3 holes on this offensive line all in the draft and have these guys start. It's just not possible. Like, you can't hit on every pick. You're lucky if you hit on 3 out of your 7 picks usually in a year that turn out good. Sometimes it doesn't happen. So I think linebacker in the draft would be huge. Maybe you grab Jawan Bentley and you kind of leave the linebacker position and take a guy in the 3rd round in the draft. And then that's your linebacker position and you keep that way. So that'd be okay. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind some of the other guys, Leighton Vander Esch, like you mentioned. I think those are some good options. There's not a lot of corners left, but I think in free agency, you have to address offensive line and corner, hopefully wide receiver as well, but it doesn't sound like it. The more and more the prices go up for these wide receivers, the less I think the Patriots will get one because they're just priced themselves out of the Patriots range. And we've seen Belichick's not willing to spend at that position at an elite level. Like, he's not going to go get the number 1 guy on the market. And right now that's Allen Robinson. And that's the only guy who's really going to make a big difference this next season for the Patriots if he were to sign here for some reason.
Yeah. The Bears fan asked, yes, we still have Brady and Edelman. Both of them are on the bench. They haven't played for a while
And Gronk.
now. Oh, yeah, Gronk's still here too, but he's recovering from his 8th back surgery and another ACL. So we still have him. We're just kind of waiting to play him. Haven't really talked to him yet. Has Bill lost his fastball?
As a GM,
in a way, yeah. I think it's fair to say in a way he has. Now, again, he could go make moves that make this offseason great. It's not looking likely, so I think it's a little too early to judge, but I think that he has taken a little bit of steam off. He's, I guess if you want to say in football terms, he's regressing with age. He's fallen down the ladder, but Bravis, hopefully I said that right. Thoughts on a guy like Darius Williams from LA? Yeah, I saw Evan Lazar say this. We kind of touched on him too. He's just more of a cornerback 2 for me. And now you're building off a roster with a bunch of cornerback 2s and you're asking him to do cornerback 1 responsibilities and you're just waiting for him to get exposed by. You thought J.C. Jackson against Stephon Diggs was bad for some Patriots fans. I'm sorry, imagine Jalen Mills. I just don't think that he's going to come anywhere close to what J.C. Jackson did on Stephon Diggs. So I don't know. You're banking on building your roster off of cornerback 2s and hoping that one of them develops.
I mean, what's the other options though? That's the thing. Like, what guy are you going to feel good about putting 1-on-1 with Stephon Diggs left on the market right now?
Gilmore, but it's not likely.
Probably not going to happen. Yeah. So take Gilmore away. Now who do you pick? You can have one guy. Who do you want?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably go Casey Hayward this way because he's probably playing some of his best football now. You can get him cheap on a 1-year deal.
He's more zone guy though.
Exactly. So
that's like man to man, it's probably what Williams. Maybe. It's tough. There's not a lot of great options. That's what stinks. The Bears guy's asking if we have Brady or Edelman again. Yes, we do. We still do. I'm starting to get concerned about this kid. There's not a lot of good options. That's what stinks. So I think Darius Williams, I think it's a good option. If he's there, he's projected $10 million, $11 million range, 3-year contract. He's 29 years old. He's getting up there a little bit in age, but whatever. I don't know. It's better than nothing. What else do we got at this point? Like, it's not like there's a number 1 corner that's just going to fall into our lap. We need a corner. Say we get Williams, then we draft Kyer Elam or Andrew Booth Jr. I'll feel pretty solid about the quarterback position. A lot better than if we don't do anything and we just keep Jalen Mills out there. Like, there's not a lot of better options, and that's what stinks. So at this point, I'd be okay with it. If you told me this 2 weeks ago, I would have said, no, let's keep JC and go after maybe another cheap guy, or maybe, let's get JC and add Darius Williams. And I think he's one of the best options out there for man-to-man coverage if they want to stay in this scheme right now.
Yeah. Mike and Jerry are kind of asking the same thing. Mike asks, would you trade back from 21 and draft volume? Jerry asks, if we were to go pick 21 right now, where would you go? Cornerback, linebacker, or even trade back? I think we both
agree.
Yeah, I think we both agree trade back, right? Trade back for volume, get a late first-round pick. If you do keep 21, go cornerback. Hope Andrew Booth
falls.
Yeah, falls. If not, trade back. Maybe you can still grab Elam at the back the back half of the first round and gain an extra 3rd or 4th or maybe even a 2nd-round pick to trade up. So I'm a fan, and it's just more and more likely for me that New England's going to trade down from 21.
I agree. And like we said on a couple podcasts, I don't mind it at all. This year, if we trade back, I'll be okay. There's so much depth in the second round. Linebacker, there's some good wide receivers. There's some maybe a couple corners will fall into the early second round or late in the first, like you mentioned, Kyer Elam. Maybe you can get him end of the first round if the Lions want to trade out for a quarterback or something. So I think there's some good options there. Andrew Booth Jr. and John Mechie was a beast when Mac was a QB at Alabama. Yes. John Mechie in the late second, early third round. I would love that for the Patriots. That'd be a great value pick. Guy has chemistry with Mac already, fills somewhat of a need at wide receiver, can play a lot of different positions at wide receiver. Like he's a versatile guy. I'd love that. And Andrew Booth, I would love if we get those two guys in the draft, and those are two of our picks in the first 3 rounds. I'd be very, very happy with that.
Yeah, the more I look at the draft class for receivers, and someone mentioned in the comments too, we didn't pull it up, but it's a deep class. The more I think John Mechie is going to be there in the third. Coming off an ACL injury, no one's going to have much information on him. The Sky Moore, Christian Watson, guys like that just killed the combine. Calvin Austin, I think those guys have jumped him. And I probably would take Mechie in the second. I'm not saying I wouldn't. It depends on who's there. If you're telling me pick between Mechie or Watson or Mechie or Sky Moore, I'm probably going either of those two over Mechie. But if you're telling probably
both those guys are taking over Mechie,
probably
in this system with Mac,
I think so.
Okay,
but I think that now you're looking at John Mechie and you're saying if you're sitting there at the third, if those two are off the board, which I think they will be off the board, I don't think they make it to pick 54 because they killed the combines. Then I'm fine with taking John Mechie in the second round. But I think that there's other receivers I'd rather have on this team than John Mechie. And it's not just because he has a connection with Mac for me. That's great. That's probably the best thing about him because coming off an ACL injury, you never know if he's going to return back to form. And I think that John Mechie is what New England's had here in like Julian Edelman, Wes Welker. He's going to be a wide receiver 1 in our scheme. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1 elsewhere. This is a type of receiver, especially with his connection to Mac, that New England would utilize more than other teams. So it would be a good fit for me. But there's probably other receivers that I'd like a little bit more.
I can see taking a shot on Watson, maybe over Mechie, but I just think the chemistry he has with Mac is such a valuable thing. And I also think if you're getting a guy like Sky Moore, like he's probably more even of a slot guy. Mechie can play. I mean, not that Sky Moore can't play the outside a little bit too, but I think Mechie can play more positions and has more versatility than a guy like Sky Moore. I think he's probably more of a typical Patriots slot guy. That's kind of what we have Jakobi Meyers as right now. So unless you're going to get rid of Jakobi or let him walk this offseason, like next offseason, not this offseason, let him walk and take Sky Moore in the draft. I don't know. It's somewhat redundant, but I guess Mechie plays inside quite a bit as well. So it's tough. I can see Watson. I don't know. I love Christian Watson. He's got good tape. He tested extremely well. He's a crazy good athlete. It's just sometimes scares me a little bit when you see a guy, people watch his tape and they go, okay, this guy's going probably mid 3rd round. And then he goes to the combine. All of a sudden he's sneaking into the back of the first in people's mocks. It's like, I mean, the combine's important, but the tape is more important than the combine in a lot of ways. A lot of the testing is important at the combine. I'm not saying it's not, but sometimes it scares me when guys jump that much in the rankings of wide receiver and stuff like that. So I like Mechie a lot. I would love him to come here.
Yeah, and Christian Watson was, I'm trying to pull up his exact stats so I can pull it up, but when he played with Trey Lance, and you're talking about one of the best FCS teams where he played at North Dakota State. I mean, he's playing at a killer team at North Dakota State that just dominated in the run game. Really, no one could stop him. But he averaged 24 yards per catch with Trey Lance in 2020. He averaged 18.6 this year. His freshman year or his sophomore year in 2019, again with Trey Lance, he averaged 21.5. Like he's just a big play threat. He dominated the FCS level. I don't want to compare him to Cooper Kupp. I don't know if there's any Cooper Kupps out there this year, but we talk about an FCS receiver that has dominated in the league he's been in. Christian Watson's been one of them, and he's played for some of the best, FCS teams. So I do agree with you, though. I think that it is scary because the way N'Keal Harry was developed here and the lack of, true X receivers New England had. So maybe that would make John Mechie a little bit more enticing for Patriots fans. But when you're seeing a guy like that, it's and there's nothing wrong with this for John Mechie, but I think that what you're seeing with him right now is what you're going to get. He's going to be probably a very safe pick, kind of like Chris Olave, and it's going to be very good right away. Now, can he get jumped by a Sky Moore, a Calvin Austin like you have up here, a Christian Watson in a couple years? It's very likely to. So,
yeah, no, oops. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's definitely some depth there, some intriguing prospects, and it's going to be interesting to see how that translates. You never know with guys from the FCF level. Jeez. So we'll see. I think he's got all the talent in the world. It's just going to be about if it translates. And I think with that size speed combination, there's no reason it shouldn't. So I like him a lot. It's just, I don't know, Mechie's connection with Mac. Maybe it's just me, the connection they have already, seeing what Burrow did with Jamar Chase this year. I don't think it's going to be nearly to that level, obviously, but I think the connection will certainly be a benefit to the two of them in their development. And we haven't seen them develop receivers well. So I think having that prior connection and chemistry, I think that's going to help things out. Let's touch on a couple questions here. Any possibility we trade up to grab Sauce Gardner or Stingley?
I think that there's a possibility. I think someone asked that. Steve-O asked maybe Stingley falls to 21. It's looking more and more likely. I still don't think he gets that fall, but I don't see New England trading up. They're talking about Sauce Gardner being in the cornerback one off the board. That could be top 8, maybe top 5. Maybe the Jets reach for him at 4. Maybe he goes 10 to the Jets too. I don't think New England would have to give up a very, very hefty amount. And we still, even just getting a 5th round pick today, we only have we have a pick in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then 2 in the 6th. So we have 7 picks this year. And that's, no comp picks. Obviously New England usually thrives off getting those. And so I don't see him trading up. It would cost too much. And even if you don't give up picks, you're going to have to give up a significant player, and New England can't really afford to do that.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if we traded up. I don't think Stingley falls. Sauce Gardner definitely doesn't fall. If Stingley falls to 21, I think you definitely take him. I mean, if anybody can kind of fix some of the small mistakes he had, I don't even think he was that bad. He looked so good that first year. If anybody can get that talent out of him, it's going to be Belichick. I mean, that would be insane. I think he has cornerback 1 potential in the NFL. If he reaches his heights, that dude's going to be special. So that would be incredible. I don't think we trade up. I think I'd be shocked. Honestly, the Patriots want more picks, not less. So I don't think we trade up. I don't think we get either one of those two guys. I would love it though. That would be a big help to the cornerback position. Maybe Stingley falls to 21. I don't think so. I really don't. If it happens, I'd be hyped, like I just said. But good question here. Are you surprised star players, free agents haven't signed yet? Because in previous years, star players usually sign early and then the lower tiers sign later in the process.
Well, I think you're seeing this year some crazy contracts for these low tier guys, and these high tier guys are like, what the heck? Why would I sign right now? I'm going to make these teams come and offer me, a ridiculous amount, like the Allen Robinson situation. Seeing Christian Kirk get $21 million a year, why the heck would he pick up a call that's for 25 or that's for 24 or less? Like, he's probably holding out now because he's like, I mean, if someone wants a receiver that bad and they paid Christian Kirk $21 million, someone's got to pay me 24. So I think that's kind of what you're seeing. You're seeing a little bit of overpaying for maybe these lower tier guys. And that's why at certain positions, and that's why you're seeing these higher tier guys that haven't signed yet. Maybe teams don't want to spend that much for them. They're asking for a crazy amount, and it's a little unrealistic for these higher tier guys, but they're going to try to get that money because of what the other guys have gotten.
Yeah. And reportedly the rest of the receivers are waiting for Allen Robinson's decision. Like once Robinson signs, apparently there's going to be some dominoes that follow that. So it is interesting. Usually you see those big guys go first, but after that Kirk contract, it kind of shook everything up. Like it really did. The whole market changed. And even Jalen Ramsey tweeted like, wow, these guys are getting paid more than us. I'm locking down Christian Kirk. He's going to get no catches on me and he's getting paid more than me. And obviously Jalen Ramsey's getting paid a lot, but it's crazy the contract he got. It's such an overpay. It's ridiculous. And it really changed things up. I thought we had a small chance of getting Allen Robinson. Now I think that percentage drops to about 2% with trading these offensive linemen. We need O-line, linebacker, corner. We need a lot of stuff. And I doubt Bill Belichick puts that much money into one asset, especially with the money Allen Robinson is going to ask for at this point.
Yeah. LC, Allen Robinson might become cheap if nobody doesn't pick him up. I don't think he's going to get 24, 25 million.
No.
I don't think he's going to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. but I don't think he gets under 20 million. If you're telling me that Allen Robinson signed for 18 million and Christian Kirk signed for 21, that agent should be fired. Like that, whoever Christian Kirk's agent should be getting a huge payday, and every NFL guy should be flying to him and saying, like, what the hell did you just do? Like, are you a wizard? Did you just wave your wand or something and cast a spell on the Jaguars? But I don't think that he signs for anywhere under 20 million, which is still, I think, for Allen Robinson, it would probably make him the fourth or fifth highest paid receiver in the league. And I don't know if he's there anymore. He's still a good receiver, but I don't know if he's $20 million worth of money, in my opinion.
I don't either. And the Bears fan, I saw him comment earlier that Allen Robinson is not the same player. I mean, obviously he watched more Allen Robinson probably than I did like this past season as him being a Bears fan, but I don't know. I disagree. I think he's produced so much in a Bears organization that, not to offend you, is just not great. And he's played with horrible quarterbacks, not great coaching, been a lot of different changes throughout his time there. And I think Robinson needs a new home. I think him being with the Patriots, Mac Jones, this system with, I was going to say, a good offensive line and run game to complement the passing game, but now that's a concern too. So if we can get Robinson somehow and shore up this offensive line, I think the complement of the run game and the passing game is going to be elite. And I think this offense, it was a top 10, top 8 offense statistically last year, like scoring wise. I think this offense could be a really solid if we get a guy like Allen Robinson. It would fill a huge hole that we have, and we wouldn't have that problem of a number one receiver anymore. We could stop talking about this every single year, and we would have that role filled, and it would be great. I would love that. That would be great.
Yep. Some breaking news here. The Bears signed Nicholas Morrow. Wow. That's crazy. I really wanted him in New England. I thought that he'd, fix all of our issues. So I'm glad that the Bears at least, got Nicholas Morrow. That should make them a Super Bowl contender that you think they are. So
they're better than the Patriots now.
Oh, now they are. Yeah. A couple minutes ago they weren't, but I agree. And Justin Fields is better than Mac Jones because of Nicholas Morrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love this comment too, though. I love Judon's recruiting everybody. Why not? Somebody didn't like it earlier, but I love it. I think that's great. This is kind of a good question. A couple good questions coming up here. What happened to the Robbie Anderson trade?
I don't know. It just kind of went quiet. I wasn't a big fan of it unless you restructure his deal and create more cap space, because it's pretty much just flipping him for Nelson Aguilar one for one. And I don't know if Robbie Anderson is that much of an upgrade after the kind of disappointing year he had last year. So I don't know. It just kind of went dead. I don't know how I ever really thought about it, if I thought that it would be a huge upgrade. Obviously, Bills loved him for a while and they wanted to sign him, but I think you look at his contract too and you kind of compare it to the Aguilar and you're like, maybe that was an overpay at the time.
Yeah, it's quite a 1-for-1 move, it feels like, getting Anderson. I feel like it sounded like it was more just Patriots checking in on a lot of receivers. Maybe they did a little more than check in, because apparently Bill wanted Robbie Anderson a year or two ago, and that never happened. But I just feel like I'd probably rather have Robbie Anderson than Nelson Aguilar. I think it's a pretty even move as far as that. I don't think if you got to give up decent capital to get him, I just think you might as well keep Nelson Aguilar or go for somebody else or some other people there. I'm hearing some Clowney rumors. What are your thoughts on Clowney? And this is one thing, the betting odds, I think, have the Patriots as the favorites to sign him. I haven't heard from any actual Patriots reporters that Clowney is somehow involved with the Patriots or they're pursuing him. But we also, last year, the thing about it is last season, you didn't hear the Patriots were pursuing any of the guys really that they ended up signing. I mean, we didn't hear about Godchaw. We didn't hear about Mills. We kind of figured they'd target a tight end, either Jonnu or Henry, but we never got any confirmed reports that they were targeting them. We didn't hear about Aguilar, and we didn't hear about Kendrick Bourne. Those were all kind of surprises. So they're usually pretty low key on what they're going to grab. We didn't hear about Judon. That happened so fast out of nowhere. So I don't know. Maybe some of the guys you don't hear about are some of the guys that we are more likely to get. Sometimes that's how it works with the Patriots, but I'd be interested in Clowney depending on the price point, but I haven't heard anything about him actually coming here from any real sources.
Yeah. Would you rather take Clowney or Trey Flowers?
Trey Flowers, because his fit in New England and the price.
Yeah. That's my thing, is I think there's better options than Clowney in my
Clowney's
opinion.
projection is 1 year, 15 mil. I think you can get a guy like Flowers for what, 5 to 8 8, maybe. I don't know. Somewhere in that cheaper range. I think he'd take a 1-year prove-it deal here. And maybe you can get him for that. If you could, that'd be great. I don't think he's going to cost nearly as much as Clowney.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't. I think that there's guys out there that I'd rather have Trey Flowers. Like you said, his price point's probably going to be a little bit more in New England's range, and he's someone that we developed here in New England and know that he loves the system and played under Bill before, played under Patricia in Detroit. So I'd probably rather have Flowers than Clowney if that's the rumor. But obviously, coming off of a 9-sack season, I think that he does provide some value, especially to the pass rush opposite of Matt Judon.
Yeah, I agree. Can N'Keal and any Isabella trade happen? I mean, at
Announce
this point,
it.
Whatever, anything for N'Keal. Like this, it's just both people need a change of scenery. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind that at all. Just N'Keal needs to go at this point. Am I crazy to think Devontae Wyatt is a generational talent? His versatility, lateral quickness, they couldn't block him twice in a row at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I know Cole's super high on Jordan Davis, and I love Jordan Davis too, but I think Devondre Wyatt is...
Don't lie to the people. You don't love Jordan Davis.
I do love Jordan Davis. I just don't know if I love his value at where
you told me yesterday if he goes above the 7th round, you're going to be pissed because that's ridiculous. That's what
actually I said if he goes above the 9th round. So get it right.
Sorry, my bad.
But no, Devondre Wyatt had just as impressive of a combine, and his stats and his tape from the Senior Bowl from the season is great. He was 6'3", 304 pounds, 4.77 40-yard dash, 29-inch vertical, a little bit over 9-inch for the broad jump. So I thought he was very impressive. I still think that he's behind Jordan Davis. Obviously, Jordan Davis is, we talk about that generational talent. I think Jordan Davis is probably falls in the generational talent more, but I think what you learned from the combine, any Georgia defender is probably going to be a damn good player.
So good.
You look at Trayvon Walker, Jakobi Dean didn't even test, Lewis Sign, the safety, Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, Channing Tindall, Quay Walker, like they all killed the combine.
Yeah, I think Wyatt is a stud as well. Obviously, I'm very high on Jordan Davis. If you guys watch this consistently, you know that by now. But I think Wyatt's good as well. All the things you just mentioned and the comment mentioned as well. Versatility, lateral quickness. He's talented. This Georgia defense was ridiculous. You grab anybody from there. I think I'd love to get Wyatt, Davis, Quay Walker. I think he's a good fit for this defense as well. There's a ton of talent on that Georgia defense. So I wouldn't mind that either. Let's touch on this. We touched on this a little bit, so we'll make this one a little bit quick. But what do you think about Chandler possibly coming back?
Yes, projected $16.5 million contract. I think it's too much for New England. I think we'd all love to have it, but if New England's not paying J.C. Jackson $17 million, I don't see them paying Chandler Jones that money either. Especially after giving your top paid player on the roster right now is Matt Judon. You spent money on that position last year. I don't see them double dipping it, bringing Chandler Jones here. Now, he did have a quote and say something about how at this point in his career, it's not really about money. I don't really believe that. He's not going to take a $5 million deal with him. No. He's going to get close to 16. He's probably going to, at minimum, maybe 13, 14, maybe 12, but still, he's going to demand money.
He's got one more chance to cash out a little bit, and not a super long-term deal, but he's got one more chance. And if even if that's true, if he wants that money, if money's not as important and winning is he going to come to the Patriots right now with this roster?
Yeah,
it's
not anymore.
It's just way too much. 16 million. Yeah, I like I mentioned earlier, I think him and Judon are similar type players. I think a guy like Trey Flowers will be cheaper and a better scheme fit with some contrast to what Judon can do well. So Trey Flowers, guy who can set the edge, play the run, and rush the passer a little bit. So I think he'd be a good fit here. But Pats are walking L right now. It's just we'll see. We'll see at the end of the week. We'll see how we feel about this. Oops. Not gonna lie, Mac Jones was a sleeper in the draft. Oh, is this the Bears fan?
Oh, now he's giving us credit.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. He was just trashing on him a few minutes ago. Now he's giving us credit. But no, it's certainly some interesting moves. I like I like them bringing back all the players they have. None of the I haven't been upset with any of the resigns. I've loved every move they've made to bring somebody here, bring somebody back. But I like the trade too, the Winovich trade. That was good, like we mentioned, for linebacker Mac Wilson. I think he has potential. We both like that. News of the day, though, Shaq Mason trade. Horrible. One of the worst trades I've ever seen Belichick make. And it could be an overreaction, maybe not. I think we both agree that's pretty bad. But
honestly, I think that if you keep Shaq Mason on this roster right now, if we're doing this episode, Shaq Mason hasn't been traded. Maybe even if he was traded for a first-round pick, the overreactions aren't too big of a. I mean, New England hasn't gone out and signed anyone. They haven't made a big splash, but you keep Shaq Mason on the roster. You still have a good interior offensive line. You're not panicking about that, and now you're making another position of need that outside of that. I think that Patriots fans would be a little bit less overreaction than what they are now. That trade was just so horrible that New England, fifth round pick in return for Shaq Mason, a top 5 guard in the league, and now making your offensive line maybe one of the biggest question marks outside of cornerback, and it's a big one when you have a second-year quarterback that you're trying to develop. You guys thought that having a wide receiver 1 was going to be good. If he can't even throw the ball to who he has out there, it's not going to be good. So that I think that trade kind of is the move that Patriots fans are looking at and saying that is screwing up our offseason, because it really kind of is.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just you want to build around an offensive line and a run game and get a receiver for your young quarterback, and we're just not doing that. We're not setting him up for success in the building with the lack of coaching and structure that he has right now, and we're not setting him up for success on the field. He has a horrible offensive line at this moment. I felt better about this team's chances of going places before free agency started. Right now, I'm scared. Right now, I'm nervous, and it's hard to try to convince you guys otherwise and try to give you guys some hope. We're not going to be the worst team in the league right now. I'm thinking 15 to 20 pick range in the first round. Obviously, it's way too. I mean, it's way too early. We're 2 days into free agency. There's so many people left. This could change extreme. Like, this could be way different tomorrow. We come on here and we're like, all right, we're winning the Super Bowl. But a lot of the moves so far just don't make sense. And I think you could have got much better value for Shaq Mason. I think if you keep him, that's good. We got a comment here. If we can get Collins and move Wynn to guards, re-sign Trent Brown. I don't know. That's Trent Brown and Collins are both going to be $10 million on the salary cap. That's kind of all your money right there. You don't have a corner, don't have linebacker, don't have a wide receiver. And Wynn seems to be, they haven't moved him. They haven't even tried moving him to left guard. He's been left tackle his entire career so far here, but
yeah, I've always I thought that Isaiah Wynn played some of his best football at guard in college, and I think he fits more of the guard role in the NFL. 6'2", 310. I think that he has a pretty good run blocking grade in PFF, and that's not all. Especially when you're a left tackle, you got to be able to pass protect because you're protecting your quarterback's blind side. So maybe that would be this change of scenery that he needs, is to go back to the interior. And so I'm not a big hater against that, and I could see New England experiencing with it, but now you're talking, like you mentioned, Lael Collins and Trent Brown are both. That's going to be $20 million on the cap for those two. You're keeping Isaiah Wynn on the cap for $10 million. You're going to have to sign him next year if you want to keep him at guard. So I think that's unlikely too.
If you're telling me we're signing Collins and Brown and trading Wynn, I'm off. I mean, that tackle tandem right there, phew, that'd be good. I am all for getting Collins if he's available for cheap. If they cut him, he's probably going to get a bigger contract than he has right now just because of his talent. If you can trade him for like a 6th round pick, if they're going to cut him, they traded Amari Cooper for nothing. If they're going to cut him, they're probably going to just, whoever gives him something, 6th, 7th round pick, if you get him for that, that'd be great. That'd make a lot of sense. I still think you could have got way more for Shaq Mason if you're going to trade him. I think if we could have kept Shaq Mason and traded for Collins or re-signed Trent Brown, one of those two, like, say we didn't trade Shaq Mason. Say we have Shaq Mason right now. You trade Isaiah Wynn for what? A 6th round pick? Maybe use that 6th round pick to get Collins. Then you got a left tackle, a right guard, a right tackle in Mike Onwenu, and then you're just looking for a left guard. You can find a left guard somewhere. That's not a big deal. But now we got more than one position on the offensive line to fill, and it's going to be tough. Last year was amazing. Then this year, yeah, it's tough. But there's still a lot of time left, like we said. But news of the day, Bears.
Yeah, I still can't believe they signed Nicholas Morrow. It's actually mind-blowing to me. I can't believe they pulled it off.
That guy's funny. Felt like Jimmy G trade. We should have got more in return. I agree. There's been some really head-scratching trades. We're willing to give away a 2nd round pick for Sanu, but we're only getting a 5th round pick back for Shaq Mason, a 6th for Stephon Gilmore, nothing for J.C. Jackson, a 2nd for Jimmy G. There's been quite a list in recent years of some frustration, some frustrations. I'm scared to death of the Patriots. Yep, I got that one right. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. I don't think we're facing the Bears this year. I'm glad because after that signing they just made, shoo.
Yeah, you don't want to play Chicago this year.
Our team's going to be worse than last year. I agree. And this was something that we mentioned a couple weeks ago before all this happened was that this team could take a half a step back with the money and all the free agents they have. If they lose some of these guys, I think they could take a half a step back. Good news is a lot of money next year. Maybe next year they kind of get some better signings and use the money wisely, or maybe they end up fixing things here, using some good signings and contract structures to put some money into next season so that when we have all that money, we can kind of use some of that for this year too and stay competitive because at this point, if this is the team that you trot on the field right now, they're not winning the AFC East, let alone a Super Bowl or a playoff game. I don't even think this team would make the playoffs right now. There's obviously a lot of changes that are going to happen. It's really early, way too early to tell, but I don't like what I'm seeing so far. I'll say that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Isaiah, kind of a question we hit on. Bill's not making any salary moves, do a lot of things such as converting Judon's contract into a bonus. Every other team is doing it. Why isn't Bill? Yeah, we have a video on this. Make sure you go check that out. We have 4 or 5 ways, including converting Judon's into a signing bonus, where they can create 6, 7, 8, even 10 million if we're talking trading Isaiah Wynn or trading Isaiah Wynn or getting rid of Aguilar. So there's ways, and it's frustrating. That's what we talked about. The Saints and the Packers can just create millions of cap space, and now they're signing Rodgers to extensions, and then probably going to sign Adams to an extension, and the Saints might get Deshaun Watson, and the Patriots are stuck here. Feels like our hands are tied behind our back and not doing anything. So it's definitely frustrating that Bill doesn't take advantage of some of these obvious moves.
I think if you did all the moves that we listed in that video, and Shaq Mason, extending him was one of them, not trading him. Extending him was one of the moves. I think we would have created like $25-30 million in cap space, and it wasn't that hard. It really wasn't that hard. So they can do it. They're just not doing it, and that's what's concerning, and that's what's confusing. So this guy's asked about Jameson Williams a couple times. Yeah. What about Jameson Williams in the draft for our first round and hope to get a linebacker and take a risk on not picking Dean?
Yeah, I'm kind of, I love the way Jakobi Dean plays, but I think that his size is kind of similar to the Christian Harris debate where he's just too small. He's going to be like a Kyle Duggar, and Bill doesn't draft guys like that. So I'm kind of slowly losing interest, at least for Jakobi Dean to the Patriots. And I would love Jameson Williams. He's a deep threat. He definitely has some of the most raw speed in the draft class, and it would add an element to the offense that we haven't had in a while. My concern is how often do we throw it that deep? And if you're throwing it deep, you have to have time to throw the ball. And is the offensive line going to give Mac enough time to throw the ball this deep with the way that it's structured right now? So I don't know. I'd love a receiver. If I had to choose, it'd probably be Chris Olave at 21. He'd be my first pick, obviously. I'm assuming that Garrett Wilson won't be there. Drake London probably won't be there. And then I'd go Jameson Williams at 2, my second favorite one. And I'm not too high on Treylon Burks either, but I just don't think now you're looking at all these glaring needs at corner. I don't see them drafting receiver first round.
I think Patriots should trade up and draft Slade Bolden first overall in the draft.
That would be something Bill did. Bill takes Slade in this. Well, he's going to go Mechie round 1, Slade round 2.
No, he's not. There's no way he gives us Mechie. He would never do that. He would never do that. He'll probably draft Slade Bolden in round 3, and it would be such an overdraft. I've been frustrated with this. James Williams, like you just said, talented guy. His speed he has game breaking speed. I would like him. I agree with you. I like Olave better. I don't love Treylon Burks either for this system. I don't love Drake London. There's a couple options there I like. If Garrett Wilson somehow fell, Chris Olave, if he falls, and Williams, I'd be okay with all 3 of those at 21. Any of those 3 guys I'd be okay with. But I still think we trade back. I think we get maybe a corner round 1 later in the first or early second, linebacker, wide receiver. There's some good options there. So that's kind of how I think that goes. Let's see. We got any other good questions here? Fingers crossed. We need at least 3 or 4 starters coming out of the draft. Yep, that's what's scary is with our recent drafting history. We need 3 or 4 starters out of the draft. That's tough. We had a great draft this past year. We got Mac, Barmore, Ramondre Stevenson all as starters. Ronnie Perkins, we'll see what he does. McGrone, we'll see what he does. Josh Bledsoe, maybe he turns into something. Maybe he's the backup plan at safety for the future. I don't think so though, but I don't know. there's some concerns there. I heard the reason we're not extending existing players or letting other guys like J.C. Jackson walk is Kraft overspent last year and wants to go cheap this year. I haven't heard anything on that, but I don't know. I personally don't think Kraft has a problem spending money. You don't think the Patriots are making enough money right now? I guarantee they're doing just fine on money. I mean,
Mac Jones was like top 5 in jersey sales.
I think he was like 3.
Yeah.
Or 2 behind Brady, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was up there for sure. So
yeah,
I think.
He was.
Oh, here's one. Here we go. I like this one. Matt Araiza, however you say it. Kid is a stud. That was one of our spoiler. If you haven't watched that salary cap video, one of ours was trading Jake Bailey. He clears up like $4 million in cap space. Draft this kid, trade Jake Bailey. There you go. Perfect. There's $4 million. Nobody has to complain about signing Slater and James White anymore. That's $4 million. That covers it right there. So I would love that. I think that's a great option.
Mm-hmm.
This would be great too. I don't think Elam falls into their lap in the second round, but Olave at 1, Elam in round 2. If you could get that, that'd be great. And then maybe you take a linebacker in the 3rd round, one of the guys if they fall. So let's see. Anything else you want to touch on in the comments or?
Kind of the going off of this, Bill and Kraft are being cheap in terms of not wanting to give money up front. That's kind of how the Patriots always are, though, right? They want to give you contracts that are backloaded. They don't give you the guaranteed money up front. That's kind of how the Patriots have always really done their contracts and stuff. And this isn't like the NBA where you can go over the cap, sign with bird rights, and now you're paying the luxury tax. Like every NFL team has to be under the salary cap, and
which is good. It's what makes it adds another level and dimension to the league. Not like baseball and the NBA where you can just spend and spend and spend, and then I don't know. It's not fair.
And the owners take the hit for it, which if they're willing to, it's great, but it screws some of the other teams that aren't willing to pay that stuff. So it's good that the NFL has that in place, but I don't know. I don't. The Patriots, Robert Kraft has made enough money. If that's the reason all of a sudden that he's not signing players is because he wants to save money, and then that's going to be real sad. I don't know if I buy into that completely.
Yeah, I don't really either. I have a feeling Rams are going to reach on Araiza, however you say it, because they just cut Hecker. I think that's realistic for them too. I don't know if they have any punting prospects that they feel good about, or if they have somebody in mind, but I think that's certainly an option for the Rams. If their offense continues to be successful, and if they get OBJ back and have Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Cam Akers, that I don't think they're going to have to punt the ball too often, but I definitely think that's an option for them, especially they got limited draft picks. They got limited needs. Maybe that's something they throw a pick at. But a couple more questions we'll touch on. I don't know if you have any right now. Do you have any predictions for free agents that you think the Patriots will sign? It's always you might as well throw a dart at a dartboard and see what it lands on for a number. And it's tough for the Patriots to predict some of these things, especially when they're so hectic like they've been this week.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of call this a hot take. I think that I was just looking through the cornerbacks. I think that one of the more likely ones too, a guy that's going to be super cheap, and he got bagged last year.
Oh no, I think I know what you're going to say.
Who?
The Bengals corner?
Eli Apple.
Oh, gross.
I hate it. I just think that would be so fitting for New England to go out and sign him for some reason.
It sure would. Oh, I
hate
it.
You said throw a dart at a dartboard. There you go. There's my dart. I think that if they go get a corner, maybe it's Eli Apple, and that sucks. And that's now you're Eli Apple, Jalen Mills as your cornerbacks 1 and 2, and Jonathan Jones as your slot corner. It really sucks. But he started a lot of games last year, had some good moments. He had a pretty good PFF passer rating against him, or a pretty low one, I should say. And so, he's shown flashes. I don't know if I would love it, and I don't think it fixes our issues, but I could just see New England doing something like that.
What do you think about a guy like Kyle Fuller, who 30 years old, bad season last year? That could be something they look at.
Exactly. He's another one, right? That I know Broncos fans were ecstatic to get him last year, and they were like, oh yeah, let him and Surtain play, and he was pretty horrible last year. So that's a little concerning coming off of a bad year at 30 years old. You wonder is he going to bounce back? So I'd be more comfortable signing Casey Hayward, who's coming off a good year, and knowing that he's probably going to get regression, than signing a Kyle Fuller who's coming off of a super bad year and saying, oh, I think that he's going to get back to his normal self. So it could happen. He would bring experience and something that New England would definitely need, but I don't know if I'd like that.
Yeah, I'd be okay. I don't know. At this point, dude, like, what else is there? You know what I mean? Would you rather have Jawan Williams or one of those two guys you just mentioned? Probably one of those two guys. Jawan Williams is not good. Good thing is we still have Jonathan Jones in the slot. Watch Bill will trade him tomorrow just because I said that, and we'll have just Jalen Mills as our starting corner. Yeah, I don't. There's not a ton of predictions that I have. I don't think we sign a number one receiver. Maybe we sign a depth guy somewhere, take a shot on somebody, and address the cornerback position in some way. You got to do that over the next week in some capacity. I don't know. You can't keep it the way it is, and you can't just draft one guy and pray that he's going to be a number one corner year one. You can't count on that, especially in this defensive system that's so complicated. And so versatile. The schemes they play, the different coverages they run. That's tough ask for a rookie corner.
Yeah, it's a tough ask for any corner. Playing man coverage consistently on an island like New England does is hard for any corner. So no matter who you bring in there, I don't think that they're going to be used to it like J.C. Jackson was, and it's going to take some getting used to. So you're going to definitely see a step back of that position. But I don't know. We've been on for 2 hours. A lot of this is kind of getting repetitive now, and we'll be live again next Tuesday, and we'll have clips coming out.
If anything big happens in the next couple of days, maybe we'll be on for a podcast, or at least minimum a clip, and we'll post some sort of video. But sorry, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, check for the clips, check for the lives. Follow us on Instagram, which is right here, to stay up to date. We post on our stories usually a couple hours before we're going live, so that you guys can know. And then make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment on all the videos we're doing. Keep showing support. We're going to be, keep covering the Patriots, and hopefully they make better moves, and there's brighter days ahead than this one. But for now, you got anything else, Cole?
No, just same stuff. If you guys aren't, all you guys watch right now, if you guys haven't subscribe. Really helps grow the channel and have us branch out to more people. So if you're enjoying the content, tell a friend. This Bears guy's funny. He thinks he should be the new coach of the Patriots, and he wants a shout out. There you go. There's your shout out right there. GAM1981. There you go. But yeah, Light Shadows, we appreciate the support from you as well. Seen a lot of comments and stuff. All the support you guys have been giving and the comments and on these live streams have been great. So thank you guys for engaging. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the videos, all that good stuff. But we're going to have, like you said, clips coming out, live streams, covering all the free agents and any new news that comes out this week. So yeah, like you said, hopefully there's brighter days ahead. Hopefully we can come on here tomorrow and we signed Allen Robinson. Yeah, we signed this guy. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what Bill does with these things. Hopefully he doesn't make any more crazy trades, but until later this week, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
Devin, you're on to Cincinnati.